Hey, what's crackin', Bakeberries? You ready for a 3-hour video of me filleting myself? Because that's what you're in for here. So this is a tier list of all of my LPs, though what is actually counted in it is a little bit arbitrary at times, as we'll be getting into. This was made by Yellow Chikorita. I filled this out a few days ago. Basically, it was just kind of put together out of curiosity, and a few people filled it out. I was not necessarily thinking I would do one, because I was like looking at a few of them and I'm like, it's kind of interesting to see like what the top ones are for people, but I'm not going to pay attention to like 90% of it. But then I realized that, if I do one of these, it's going to be a different perspective from everybody else, because, I made all of them, and I remember about, 10% of them. So there's going to be a lot of stuff in here that is probably going to go against the popular opinion, and I might be reminding people of stuff that they totally forgot about, and I might even bring up a few things that you never knew that I did, and it will most likely not be interesting to watch, so you won't go back and look at it. But on top of all that, you also get to see that it is currently 12:30 a.m. and it is 82 degrees, because Texas is way too goddamn hot. You'll get to stare at that the whole time because what's editing. So I'm going to be doing the tier list from bottom to top. I feel like it's better that way because we'll be building up to, the best, starting out with the hot takes and just some of the more obscure shit. And yeah, I don't know, it'll get those sweet views because people will stop watching after 5 minutes. So we're starting out with the in progress tier, which kind of speaks for itself. I just started the 3DS Smash Bros. Stream, so I don't have a whole lot to say about that one. So far, it's fine. The game is just really grindy. I'm not sure if it's ever going to become interesting, but I at least have like a few challenges left to do in it that aren't just, beat Classic or All-Star with 50 characters. Mother 3, that one's on Autumn's channel. I don't know how many people are unaware of those. I do make playlists for them, but any of the ones with that kind of pale purple, like, inner border are, these are all color-coded, basically, for, like, different co-commentators and stuff. But yeah, that one's been going pretty well, I'd say. But with it not being a game that I'm playing, because she's the one playing it, I'm just there for co-commentary, those are going to be tiered separately anyway, as we'll see in a little bit. And then South Park Stick of Truth, I just started a month or two ago, and I'm actually very behind on. I need to record a couple more videos, and soon to be 3 at this point. My opinion on that game so far is not very high. It's not that the game is bad, it's that I don't know how to commentate it. But hopefully it will pick up. So that's about it for that tier. Next up we have the Why Is This on the List tier, which is the incorrectly titled Hey You Pikmin, because it's just Hey Pikmin, which is just kind of, one of many Let's Tries that I've done. I don't really know why this one got on the list, but whatever, there it is. That video was fine. Now we have, these are the co-commentary ones. So I kind of ranked these against themselves and not any of my normal stuff. So I guess just starting from the bottom and going up then, we have Pikmin with Autumn. That one was, I didn't hate it. It was just the, I would say the lowest of the ones on here. That one had a lot of frustration with the game just kind of being bullshit at times. That's pretty much all I have to say about that one. Peasant's Quest was a super old thing with Martin. I think it was actually the first thing we did together before Majora's Mask, and there was nothing wrong with it. It was so long ago that I don't remember a whole lot about it, and it was also at a point where he knew absolutely nothing about Homestar Runner, as opposed to now where he knows, like, maybe one or two things. And, still isn't a fan of it. So, it was also weird just being the first thing that we ever really recorded together, because I just remember a lot of parts where I was kind of explaining jokes, and it's like, oh, okay. And it's like, there's no understanding going on there. I don't know why I even tried, but it was fine. Then there was the Mitch playthrough with Autumn. I don't know why that one's rated so low, honestly. I might change my mind on a few of these as I go, but I'd say that one was pretty solid. I don't remember much of what happened, but a good portion of it was us just laughing at shitty game design in that, because, you know, I made the game in 2004, and I would like to think I've gotten a little bit better at figuring out, like, you know, what is actually fair and fun gameplay since then. So yeah, I'd probably put that one a little bit higher, honestly, but most of the ones on here are good. Banjo-Tooie with Autumn. I'm actually going to go ahead and just switch these, because I will say I at least remember a couple things about Mitch. I barely remember anything of Banjo-Tooie, honestly. It was just, again, it was fine. I liked the game. Autumn liked the game. You know, we had fun going through it, but I can't really think of any moments that stood out as being amazing in that one. It was just fine. Metroid Prime Joel %. That is referring to the 22% playthrough that we did back around like 2015-ish. I don't remember exactly when that was. I know it took a while to finally get all the videos out, just because some of them took some pretty heavy editing. But that was a fun time. Again, the only reason it's as low as it is just because it's been a while and I don't remember much of it. That's going to be kind of the reasoning for a lot of these. You know, I got to explain a lot of the stupid-ass tricks in that game, and because it was a 22% run, which skips Boost Ball, which I've still never successfully done. He was on emulator, so of course it was a little bit easier, but even I've still not been able to even do that myself. Like, there were a couple things that I hadn't even really seen. There were some weird new techniques for, like, getting plasma without boost, which just basically was a massive amount of wall crawling. That's kind of the main thing I remember from that one. Earthbound with Autumn, I liked that one because Earthbound's a game that I have been kind of considering doing for my channel for a really long time and just kind of never got to. I had plans at one point to hopefully do it with Fiona, but that never went through, and we haven't talked in a long time, so just whatever. 'Cause it was just one of her favorite games, so I figured it would make sense. But yeah, it was much like Pikmin, a game that was filled with much frustration, but I don't know, in that case it was more just me kind of getting a chance to talk about a game that I like and haven't done for my channel yet, and, you know, someone going through it for the first time, and we got to, you know, enjoy the good parts and make fun of the shitty parts, so that's about it for that. Ape Escape, honestly, I'm kind of questioning my ordering here. That one was also fine. Like, you know, I remember a lot of points where we made fun of stuff, just kind of, you know, the terrible British voice acting in the European version of the game, you know, just the terrible PS1 graphics, just all that stuff, but, you know, I still like the game. There's good gameplay hidden under the crust, so, you know, just generally good time all around. Skyward Sword with letters. It's weird for me to use her screen name and not real name, but whatever. Autumn's also in that one. Just, I like the group dynamic there. I haven't done Skyward Sword for my channel either. I did do, like, I think half of it in streams with Dark Minded Sith way back in the day. We never finished that. And then more recently played through it with Joel, completely off camera. And, you know, that game is, I have so very mixed feelings with it, because I like aspects of it, but it makes it difficult at times. It's very meandery and stupid at times, and when I was playing through it with Joel, we would make fun of that all the goddamn time. But yeah, that LP's been fun, and we're hopefully going to resume it soon, but she's been having capture card issues, so hopefully we can get that figured out. Then we have Pokemon White with letters, which also I think we're going to be getting back to soon. That's just been a fun time, because, you know, it's a Pokemon game I haven't done for the channel, and she hadn't played it before, and it was just that one was was that streamed? God, yeah, I'm trying to remember, was it, like, because the recording setup for that was so freaking awkward. it was, we've resolved it since then, but like the early ones, it was this whole big stupid thing where I was like streaming it, and it was a whole big stupid mess. But yeah, I don't know, like I said, it was just generally a fun time. Then we have the Mario 64 with Autumn, which I'm gonna feel stupid saying this, but it's another one where I don't really remember that many specific moments, but we had such a kind of unique approach to that game where, you know, it's one of my favorite games ever. I've played it to death. I've played all the ROM hacks of it and stuff. Like, every single one. You don't... No, but yeah, you know what I mean. And not only had she not played it, but also hadn't ever really watched any of my videos of it, because my, like, SM64 ROM hack videos are generally pretty well regarded as some of my best stuff, but she just never really liked any of it, and so it was a just kind of blind approach to a classic game, and, you know, we got to enjoy the good parts and make fun of the kind of more archaic parts, kind of like Ape Escape, but just kind of on a more personal level. And then top one there is going to be Banjo-Kazooie, mainly just because it was kind of the first one that we did. It's another game that's very important to me. I've streamed it a million times. She was going in mostly blind, and in addition to the LP of it, there was also a different instance of me playing through the whole game with her over screen share, just kind of as a... It was, like I said, it was never meant to be recorded or anything, but it's like I'm kind of lumping that one in with it, even though it technically wasn't part of the LP. In my mind, the two are kind of similar, and so it was just, it was cozy. That's a good way to put it. So, moving on, here's the It's Complicated tier. These are ones that I couldn't put in any specific tier because they had too many factors pulling them in different directions. So Sly 2 is on there because I don't remember most of the game or what I talked about during it. The parts that stand out to me the most were when Carmelita was glitching the fuck out in this one, like, icy level, and just some of the weird crap that happened towards the end of the game, but, like, most of that game is just a blur. I'm not convinced I played through it. But the thing that I do remember were the episodes that were just, you know, running around a level trying to find all the clue bottles for an hour, and then I would record a post-commentary over it, usually sharing a overly long story about, like, some personal, like, story from my past, or just answering weird questions, and I did like those. The one about the Pizza Hut drama, although it was a story that hit very close and was by all means not a fun time, I enjoyed at least being able to talk about it. And also just, you know, there were a surprising number of serious stories I talked about in there, like the time that basically our whole family got uprooted and stuff like that. So it's like, if it was based on just those sections, I would rate it, you know, decently high. But because I don't remember the majority of the game, I kind of had to put it down here. Pokemon Snap. This is referring to the original N64 one, not new Pokemon Snap, which I was in a stream with Letters in Autumn for. But, yeah, this was one that I recorded back in 2010 with my, at the time, girlfriend, Jenny. And it is no longer viewable, aside from... You know, there's like a couple people that downloaded it just for archival reasons, but we're not making that public. So, ignoring the lost media aspect of it, it's very difficult for me to rate because I cannot mentally separate recording that game with just, you know, being with her in general. Because that was during the week that I was visiting her, and, you know, it was our first time interacting, and so, you know, there's a lot of mixed feelings involved, and that's basically the game for me. Did we play that game? I don't know. That was just kind of a thing that happened while I was there. And then I have Metroid 2, which was the first LP I did, if we're not counting uncommented stuff or the single video of NES Metroid. It was the first, like, proper LP. And that's kind of the reason why it's down here, because it gets points for, like, historical reasons, I guess. And it did have its moments, like the one where I did a shitty Tristan impression and, like, pretended that he was another character in the video with me. This was, really when I was kind of finding my footing and I wasn't sure, like, what my style was going to be. I frequently make fun of some stuff I say in the first video. Like, there was a point where I just randomly made a AVGN quote, and then I was just like, AVGN. There was one where I very badly tried to force a awkward joke about the mystery fluid from MXC, and was like, yeah, you get that joke, right? There was the one where most of the video was me singing Plan 9 from Underpants, which was an animutation, and then the video got, like, it became, like, unplayable in most countries because I had the music from De Kabouterdans, which was, like, a Dutch kids show. But then it, like, randomly and unceremoniously came back many years later. I don't know, so it's like, I have memories with that one, but it isn't good. Let's not pretend that it is. So, now we're moving up to the actively bad tier, and here's where, people are probably going to disagree with a lot of these. But I don't think anybody's going to disagree with the first one here, going from bottom up, is the Super Mario Bros. LP. And you might wonder, what do you mean? Like, like Mario Bros. 1? Yes, the first NES game. Did I LP this? Not really. I don't know why it's on this list, but what I assume it's referring to is the single video that I did of it way back in the, like, it was after Metroid 2, but it was, like, when I was doing Fantasy Zone and 4 Seconds Firestorm and, like, Domo-kun's Angry Smash Fest and all that other weird bullshit, walking in circles. It was just a single video I put out, and it was, like, 5 minutes long, and I got to World 8 and died, and I was just like, this game sucks. And it's a terrible video, so I fully believe it is one of the worst things I've made. But it also, like, I'm trying to think how to word this. There was, like, you know, a substantial portion of my life where I had never actually beaten that game without save states. I have since been able to do that. Like, I think probably about 10 years ago at this point, I did stream it, I beat it, and that almost, like, ruins my narrative, because I used to kind of have this weird complex of, like, you know, insisting this game is way more difficult than it really is, and I'm like, look at me, I can beat I Want to Be the Guy, I can do all this crazy stuff in Mario 64, like, you know, I'm pretty good at games, but I can't beat the original Mario, this game's impossible. And it's because I never really tried that hard. So, it was a shitty video. Next is going to be Skyrim, which was an extremely ill-fated LP. I wanted to try it for the sake of doing something different, because I'm like, you know, everybody likes this game. The idea of it does sound cool. And I'm like, I kind of want to try this out, and, you know, I'll do my own thing with it. We're going to put in a bunch of mods, and I'm going to, like, try to kind of get into it and, like, not just break it wide open. I kind of want to, like, roleplay a little bit. It didn't happen. And the main reason it didn't happen is because I am galactically incapable of absorbing information from dialogue. Basically, it's like, you know, I'm playing Final Fantasy XIV. I have the same exact issue in that game where, you know, I will actually try to listen to what is being said in a cutscene, and if they say something about, like, you know, let's go get coffee biscuits, it'll be fun, I'll remember that shit, but as soon as you start talking about, like, you know, you have to go to the swamps of Dagobah and destroy, you know, the menace that's lurking there that has been haunting the people of fucking amaranth. I'm trying to throw out a bunch of stupid terms here. I don't know. But yeah, it's like I'll never remember any of that crap. And so that just kind of made that game a massive slog. And I remember after a few videos, Martin's just like, are you having fun with this? Like, you're asking me where to go constantly, and you have no agency of your own. And I'm like, yeah, because I have no idea what I'm doing. So, yeah, that one dropped for good reason. Lego Harry Potter was another one that was dropped just because I had no idea what the fuck we were doing. I had never played a Lego game before, and I have never played one since. A lot of people seem to really like them. I just had absolutely no idea what to do in that game at any point. It made no sense to me. And, yeah, moving on. Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. You'd think that a game like that would be immune to the issues of me being unable to figure out what's going on in the story, because there wasn't that much story. It's a fucking Mario game. But I never paid attention to what was going on. I never knew where I was going. I could never get used to the controls. I didn't know how to commentate over the game, much in the same way that I'm having the problem with Stick of Truth. It's really, really hard for me to talk over any sort of turn-based combat that requires, like, action commands if I'm not intimately familiar with the game, to where I can just kind of do it, like, it's like second nature and not think about it. So, like, it was just, my brain was constantly being pulled in, like, 5 directions, because I'm, like, trying to think of something to talk about, and I'm like, oh, I have a little scrap of something. I can talk about Detective Pikachu. Oh, wait, combat. Okay, what was I talking about? Oh, yeah, broccoli. That was pretty much how that one went. Oracle of Seasons, that was a pretty early one. It was, I dropped it pretty early, not because the game was bad, but because the way that I was playing it was just kind of not conducive to LPs. I was insisting on kind of, you know, leaving no stone unturned. Gotta check everything for secrets. So as soon as I got the ability to change seasons, I'm like, well, I gotta check every screen in every season and see if there's, like, a heart piece or something. And it was basically like, you know, I would see where the game wanted me to go, and I would insist on doing everything else, and I pretty quickly realized, like, you know, this just isn't for me. And I've still not played either of the Oracle games, as, like, I've watched Joel play through them, but I absorbed absolutely nothing. I watched Datai's LPs a long time ago, absorbed nothing from those. As far as I'm concerned, those games don't exist. And that's kind of how I feel about a lot of the 2D Zeldas, honestly. Nuts and Bolts. That's another one that, like, you know, for a long time I said I might get back to, because I don't hate that game. Like, I did have fun playing through it the first time, and I'm like, you know, this game is hated by a lot of people. I want to give it a fair shot and show people that it's fun. But I think there was just a lot of issues with it. It was, I recorded it at a time where like, I actually couldn't record it directly because of the hardware that I had at that time. I had to stream it and then just upload the VOD, and I couldn't do any kind of editing. And now I basically never do any editing on my videos anyway, but at the time, you know, I would have liked to kind of trim it a bit, and I just didn't have that option. So I constantly had to worry, like, you know, am I taking too long to do something? I gotta try to have something to talk about. It was just kind of, it was a slog, and now I don't even have a 360, so, like, I don't see myself ever going back to that game. Gex 3 was, you might be surprised it's this high on the list, because it's, like, you know, my fucking nightmare game that will always haunt me. It's slightly overstated in how bad it was, but it was still pretty bad. Let's not pretend anything better of it. The game itself was just kind of, like, subpar. I would call it not great, but, you know, it wasn't horrible. I still liked Gex 2 better from what I saw of it, at least. I never finished Gex 3. But that one was just a freaking nightmare with recording. It was... Because, like, the first video was a let's try, and it was fine. And then when I returned to it, it was at a point when I had... I didn't have my old laptop anymore because it was... It basically broke for one reason or another. I don't remember. And so I had to borrow, like, my mom's, or I think... I don't even remember the exact situation. But, it was like it had a lot of recording issues, and there was also problems with like the video editor, and the game, like, I tried really hard to make it work, where for the episodes where I would just kind of do, like, you know, the equivalent of the 100 coin star, which was where you get 100 fly coins to get a remote. Like, I always tried to do something interesting with those, with post-commentary, and kind of make it a gimmick related to the level. So, like, we had one that was, like, a news broadcast, that kind of thing. There was the, like, film noir narration, and those were kind of fun to put together, but they were a lot of work. And the thing that kind of sunk it was when I recorded one of those for the war level. I did a... it was supposed to be like a letter being sent back home to like Gex's girlfriend or whatever, and so I had like this whole lore that I just kind of made up, but I made an intro for the episode made up of like sweeping camera shots of the level playing the music from MASH, and I put that out, and then like a few days later my channel got targeted by the fucking LP terrorist group DEFTA, which was just this group of random assholes that would false flag videos for no reason, claiming that, you know, they violated this rule or that rule. And so because of YouTube's flag system, it would take the video down, no question. To fight against it, you had to, like, you know, go through this whole big stupid process to contact YouTube, and you had to like give them your address and stuff, and apparently that would also give your address to the assholes that flagged you. That's what I understand, at least. And it led to this whole big issue where I basically had to go over every single one of my videos on the channel, which at the point there were over 1,000. Find anything where I used like any copyrighted music or video clips or anything, and I had to take those videos down and then re-upload them with like different edits. And for the MASH one, that was one of the videos that got flagged, so I couldn't actually take it down, or I don't know what I'm saying. I couldn't argue that one. Like the other ones they flagged, I got put back up. One of them I think was just a like situation of the channel Picross video, and they flagged that shit. Yeah, I couldn't really say that the Gex video, it's like I couldn't claim that it had nothing wrong in it because I did use that music, so that video just got lost to time, and I eventually made a new video for that same level, and then I just kind of abandoned the game for a while and eventually came back to it with Tim, and we tried to slog through it, and it was just shitty, and there were emulation issues, and I'm like, man, fuck this game. So that was kind of my whole history with Gex 3. It deserves to be low on the list. Yoshi's Island DS was just a pain in the ass. That game was probably the most frustrating experience I've ever had with a video game, which is saying a lot because I played Action 52, and like I want to be the guy, and it's like there's probably a little bit of hyperbole in there, but man, fuck Yoshi's Island DS. That game is way too goddamn hard for all the wrong reasons, and I forced myself to get through it, but it wasn't pretty. So, like, you know, from a viewer standpoint, there might have been some good stuff in there. I don't even remember anything about that game other than some of my weird outbursts, like 50 talk degrees. There was the one where I just turned into Strong Bad for a minute. yeah, I don't know, that game sucked ass. Sonic Mania only lasted 2 videos, and those 2 videos were fine. I would put this up much higher on the list. It wouldn't be great, but it would be like, at least C tier if it was just those 2 videos. But after I, like, the second video had technical issues because, like, my computer was having problems, and so I kind of put it on hold for a while, and then I just kind of never got back to it. And quite a long time later, I decided, like, hey, I should get back to this. And at the end of a Metroid Prime 2 multi-world randomizer that I streamed with Joel, we finished early one night, and I'm like, as a surprise, I'm gonna go back to Sonic Mania. And I did, and I got frustrated at the game because I'm not particularly good at it. And also, I seem to be playing it on, like, a bit of a delay. There was some kind of latency issue for some reason. I don't know why. Which I'm not going to completely blame that, but it didn't help. And the chat was just kind of being atrociously rude, kind of making fun of me for fucking stuff up. And so I got really pissed off. I stopped the stream. I deleted the VOD immediately. I screamed at people on Discord, and I was not very far away from, like, basically deleting my channel over that stream. It was fucking bad. Like, I was not pleased with how that went, to put it mildly. So, because of that stream, Sonic Mania gets the honor of being this low on the list. I don't even hate the game. Like, I could very well return to it at some point. I just don't think I'll ever record it. Because, God. Sonic games are a fucking pain in the ass to 100%, and you're kind of not meant to for your first playthrough. But that's just kind of how I am. So, I don't know. Luigi's Mansion 3 was a weird one. Streamed that with Joel, and Letters was in at least most of it. I don't know if she was in all of it. And she was in the dishwasher for that one. But the reason it's so low is because, like, I say this about a lot of things, but I don't think I played that game. You can say for stuff like Sly 2, where I just kind of don't remember it. Luigi's Mansion, I kind of just didn't play the game, because I had Joel there as co-op, and he kind of carried me the entire time. By request, like, he wasn't just doing that, like, it was because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I never really learned the game's mechanics very well. 75% of the way through the game, I still couldn't remember what the controls were. And there was just kind of never a point where I gave a shit, because I didn't find the game very fun. But I wanted to finish it anyway for some stupid reason, probably because people kept pestering me for, like, not finishing a lot of things that I started. So I, like, begrudgingly finished that game, but it was, I was a zombie throughout most of it. That's basically all there is to say about that one. But, like, I feel like I can't do justice to how little I care about that game. I don't know what it was about it. I don't really like the first Luigi's Mansion that much either, but I would say it can sort of keep my attention. I've never played the second one, but yeah, that one's just like, oh my god, it was a slog. Mario Galaxy 1 is pretty low on here, and this is probably no surprise to most people, because a lot of people do seem to like that one, but I've always been active about hating it. And it probably had its decent moments, but I don't remember them, because the only thing I can remember of that LP was me being a whiny little bitch constantly. And it wasn't even because of, like, anything really related to the game. Well, no, it sort of was, because I still find... I have my, like, list of minor complaints with Galaxy. I just kind of find the game... I don't like it nearly as much as 64 or Sunshine. I feel like Galaxy 2 was a lot better, but even that one kind of still has its issues. Really just, like, Wii-era Mario, which kind of extended into, like, 3DS a bit, and just that whole era was just so fucking bland and like milquetoast. And Galaxy like has this whole space theme, and you'd think it would be great, and it does have some like cool ideas, but I just find the game bland as shit. But aside from that, my issue with it was just I was doubting myself to like be able to make commentary more than any other point before this. This was the first LP where I felt like, you know, this is it. I'm out of things to say. I can't make videos anymore because I have nothing to talk about. And I just kind of fell back on reiterating that point constantly. And like the thing I'll always remember was the video where I got to Bowser and I actually had to stop the recording and like, you know, take a minute. I feel like I took like half an hour to like give myself the motivation to even return to it, because just I had made like a comment that I thought was the worst case of me forcing a joke. I think I basically was like, the way that Peach said Luigi sounds like it was poorly dubbed in, like in Birdemic. And I'm like, this is like the 50th Birdemic joke I've made in 5 minutes. Like, can I fucking stop? And I just, I felt completely worthless in those videos. So that's why it's on here. Then we have the SM64 Oot, which was the Mario 64 ROM hack where it was the Ocarina of Time map. That one's on here because I kind of went into it with high hopes, and the game itself was pretty good throughout. I think there were parts that were pretty frustrating, but the main thing was it was a co-op with Martin. Like, he wasn't playing it, but was in there commentating on it, and he basically just had nothing to add and fell asleep during the videos several times, and so that basically made me feel like there was no salvaging it, because I'm like, this shit is so boring that even like watching it is putting people to sleep. So it's like, why am I recording this? And so then that one basically got canceled until, you know, ages later I finished it on stream, and I remember the stream not being all that great either, but it was fine, I think. So it's like, it's not the worst of the bad list, but it still gets on the bad list for that. Oh boy, Tomodachi Life. We're gonna get personal with this one. That one's on there because I went into this basically with high hopes of like, you know, it's not gonna be as funny as Vinny's, because I'm not as funny as Vinny. I can't, like, I'm not as good at improving and, you know, making funny statements. He has a much bigger chat to play off of, etc. So it's like, it's not going to be as good, but, you know, I can kind of try. I'm going to put in, you know, some meme characters related to stuff that I've done over the years, and, you know, we can have a fun time with this. The problem was I felt the need to insert like 10 different waifu characters for myself, because I'm like, well, I gotta end up with somebody, so why not Kaylee from Firefly? I don't think I actually got to a point where I added her, but she was on the list. Of course, the game tried to stick me with fucking Ariana Black early on, and I'm like, no, you're 14. But, anyway, it was just... And of course, Dr. Lori was in there, and people were like, oh man, you totally need to get with Dr. Lori. I'm like, I'm absolutely not dating Dr. Lori. It's not happening. So it's like, that was, it was kind of awkward on its own for that reason. Then there was the issue of, the game is very slow-paced, and, you know, the Vinesauce one worked because it eventually kind of developed a lore, and he, like, made this weird story structured around it, where there was like the Gen invasion and that kind of crap, which, you know, I obviously never got far enough to do anything like that, but yeah, it's just, you know, it's a lot of going from apartment to apartment, talking to people, and they're like, I'd like some new clothes, and it's just whatever. And there were a few parts where I tried to make songs, and, you know, they take forever to enter in. And so I would usually try to keep chat entertained with something while I would do that. There was one point where I just played a YouTube poop, but I didn't realize that the sound wasn't actually, like, showing up in stream, so that was just dead air for, like, 10 minutes, so that was good. But where this one really comes in was the character of Nobody, and I'm still not going to explain who this is, other than it was just somebody from my past, who I absolutely should have not put in the game, because even if nobody knows who she is, it was awkward as fuck. I'm just like, hey, you know, here's this real person that I used to have a crush on, but also she hasn't been part of my life in, like, you know, 10 plus years, so, you know, let's bring her up again for fucking no reason. And I did this just kind of, like, because I have issues. I don't have a good reason for it. And then, unrelated, I, like, you know, while these streams were going on, but it wasn't prompted by anything, I happened to bump into a old forum post, and I'm not going to say, like, where this was from or anything, but it wasn't from Nobody, but it was from somebody else that I used to be close with, and she called me a massive creep, basically, and it was, like, I think it was, like, at least 8 years old. Like, that was how old that comment was when I found it, but it stung really bad, and I'm like, yeah, you know, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Like, this is not something that normal people do, is, you know, fixate on these old crushes of theirs. Maybe I should not, maybe she should not be in the game. And I decided, you know, like, I'm just gonna fucking drop the entire thing. This thing was cursed from the beginning. People don't need to know about my love life with fucking Ariana Black. So yeah, that was just a bad decision. We don't talk about Tomodachi Life. And at the top of the actively bad tier is Ultra Sun, which I just finished, and it's on this list primarily because of the massive, I don't want to call it backseating, but it was a mix of backseating and just kind of general, like, you should play the game this way type comments that I would get. And some of them were justified, because there were points where I, like, you know, I was playing the game in this way where I have the rotating team of 12 Pokemon, but I'm also, like, not using the experience share, and I'm fighting all the trainers, but I'm not grinding otherwise, and so my team is, like, stupidly underleveled, and I'm losing against a bunch of fights that I shouldn't be. And I'm like, this game is so fucking hard. Like, why did they do this? And Pokemon, everybody says it's super easy, but I'm sucking at it. I don't know why I got a lisp there. People are like, you know, maybe you're sucking at it because you are not using the tools the game is giving you, and you're making it harder for yourself. I'm like, well, it doesn't matter. I can play my own way, and it's not working. And so it was just, I was kind of a whiny bitch, and I recognize that now. So it was... like, it had its ups and downs. It wasn't terrible. I don't regret playing through it, but there's a reason it took me like 5 years to finish it, and it's because, I mean, part of it is just because, you know, I also played through Moon a year previous, like a year prior, which is like 90% the same game, and I did a text LP of it, and I don't know why I did, because I don't think anybody ever really read it, and it wasn't that good, but, like, doing it in that way forced me to kind of play through the game in a particular way where I had to constantly be taking notes while playing, and so I kind of killed my enjoyment of Gen 7 on both attempts. But my overall opinion of it is now, I think, a bit better. It's, like, I kind of ruined the games for myself, but they're not bad. They're not the best either, but they're okay. So, sorry, I had a lot to rant about with those. I think that's, these are going to be getting a lot shorter, most likely, because we are now moving into the D tier, which doesn't have a name, but this is basically the forgettable as shit tier. So Rhythm Heaven, I streamed a couple times, I think, on its own, and then one time I did like a weird... Was it part of the Super Metroid Link to the Past combination rando? I think it might have been. It was some sort of rando where anytime I got like a rupee chest, I would have to do a Rhythm Heaven level, and I kind of liked that gimmick, but other than that, I mean, it's Rhythm Heaven. I kind of have to pay attention to the game and can't talk over it, so if there was ever a point where I did talk over it, I couldn't tell you. It was basically just, I am playing this game and you are watching me play it, and I am not adding to the experience. Next we have Rockman 2 Exhaust, which is, I think, my most obscure LP. People say it's Green Dog, but it's not. It's definitely this one. Because it was just a random middle-of-the-road Mega Man 2 ROM hack that, for some reason, I did an LP of way back in the day. It was like... It was one of my really early ones. It was after Mitch. It might have been the same time that I did the Mario 64 capless, cannonless, coinless run. It was somewhere around there, at least. I remember basically nothing of that LP other than there was one where, like, the little ditty that would play when you select a boss, I just kind of started a video with, like, selected that, and I was just like, Bubble Man, time for part 4 of this LP. It's like, that's the only thing I remember from that game at all. Ristar was one of the ones I played through with Tim, and I think it might have been delayed at one point. I don't remember. It was part of the... It was around the Great Hiatus. Like, there was a point between 2012 and 2014 where I barely uploaded anything, and I think this was around that time. And I like Ristar as a game, but I couldn't tell you anything that happened in that LP. I think I told the story about my character in the UBCS comic creating the porn bush. I think that came from that LP, but that's about all I remember from it. Then we have Shovel Knight, which was the first Patreon-only LP, and boy did we start out with a good one here, because I remember nothing of that game either, other than the ending, where I played, I want to state here, I played through the game once. I don't really remember any of it. It was just kind of okay. I don't remember the names of any of the characters or whatever, but I got to the final boss, and I tried to use my main shovel weapon, and it didn't seem to work. So I found a different weapon that did work, but had limited, like, ammunition, and so that made the fight harder. But I did get through it. And I'm like, well, that was a kind of weird final boss fight. And then I got comments that are like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, why would you not use the shovel? Like, that's obviously what you're supposed to do. And I'm like, I tried and it didn't work, and I beat it anyway. Why are you bitching about it? So I think that might have been literally just one comment, but that's like the one thing I remember from that playthrough. That and, like, not remembering what items do, I think. I don't know. Minish Cap. That's another one. I've seen people put this one high on lists, and I don't know why. That was a chapter of my life that, alien technology has wiped from my brain. I do not remember Minish Cap. Like, if you told me to name the dungeons from it, like, let's see, there's the one at the beginning where it's like, like a foresty one, and there's like a giant pot, I think, or a barrel. There's the one that's in the sky. There's, like, the one with the mine carts. There was one where you dig through a lot of dirt. That's pretty much all I got. Like, the only thing I remember from that game is Kinstones being obnoxious. and having to look up a list of like all the heart pieces and like how to like where all the kinstones go and stuff. And yeah, I also remember the final boss being a pain in the ass. Like that's it. That game doesn't exist. Plock was another one I did with Tim. I was gonna say with Ristar. Yeah, me and Ristar LP'd Plock, but no. It was basically as forgettable as Ristar. But the only reason I do remember it is because it appears in the YouTube poop of Bikdiponabus rises on the third day, or ends the hiatus on the third. It's something like that. I don't remember the name of it. It was just a mishmash of the start of Mario RPG and the end of the Plock LP. I don't know why, but there's parts of that get quoted occasionally. I also remember the very end of it where there was like a weird claymation Plock that had a shadow on it, and it's like, that's not Mickey Mouse, that's just tit dirt. But that's about it. Then we have the original Sly Cooper, which I remember even less than Sly Cooper 2, primarily because I played it a long time ago, but that's another one I always see people say, like, oh, that one was really good, I liked watching that. I'm like, did I play that game? Are you sure? Like, what the fuck happened in that game? I remember... Fuck, I don't... Okay, no, there was a alligator... like, who was like a diva. I remember that. There was that. I don't remember any of that game. And the only thing I do remember was the one where it was like fucking 110 degrees when we were recording it and we were dying of heat stroke. And then there was like, that might have been the same one where we lost all the visuals and just uploaded the audio separately. I think, I don't know, whatever. Sonic Unleashed, it's the same thing as Sly Cooper. I don't remember that LP. I'm pretty sure that you can watch that one currently on the like Bikdiponabus archive channel. I think it's been backed up. But is there anything good in it? Hell if I know. All I remember is, you want some chocolate? And the one where we made a joke about like Robotnik's right knee or something. I don't know. Super Smash Bros. N64. It was just kind of, from the beginning it was meant to be a short project. And what do you do in that game? You play through classic mode. That's it. What else do I say? I don't remember it. Ukulele, that's another weird one where it's like, I remember it at least a little bit more than some of the other games on this list, and I wish I remembered it better than I did because, I was trying to defend that game because everyone was saying that it didn't live up to the hype. It was, a shitty reimagining of Banjo-Kazooie or whatever. And it's like, it didn't capture the original charm. And I'm like, no, this game's pretty good. And I wouldn't be opposed to playing through it again. Like, it was fine. It wasn't amazing, but it was fine. The LP, though, was just forgettable. The only thing I remember from that was just, constantly trying to make some sort of like anecdote out of like the very limited amount of after school activities. I say that because like this was the period where very briefly I was actually like interacting with people outside of work, and not much of interest happened, but we can pretend that. And I'm just like, oh, I can fill an episode talking about, the night where we went and got ice cream. Yeah. I don't know. Kid Icarus Uprising. Yeah, the game was fine. Being a game made by Sakurai, it has a million, like, achievements you can get in it, and I sure as fuck wasn't going to do all that, but I played through the main story. It was fine. I just the controls were obnoxious. It was really difficult to like pay attention to the dialogue because it was very dialogue heavy, and that's like where all the humor came from. It was difficult to like pay attention to that and potentially commentate it. I've kind of learned, especially with Stick of Truth now, that there's really no point in even attempting that. It's just, you know, kind of let the game say its piece, and when you get to a section that doesn't have talking, then I can talk. But the problem is Kid Icarus never shuts up, so it's like, why am I playing this? I have nothing to say about it because the game is just gonna keep talking. I don't know. Star Fox Assault was, again, I mean, everything in this list, I don't remember much of. It was okay. Moving on. Wario Land 4 was a very early instance of this, where I think it was the first game, not counting ROM hacks, that I LP'd blind. The early days of Let's Plays were weird because there were some people that basically insisted that like there was an unwritten set of rules that you had to follow, where like, you know, it should be a game that you're very familiar with and you can bring your personal experience to it, and that kind of thing. And like, you know, it's better to do obscure games and not the ones that everybody's already played already, you know, give them a new audience. And I kind of agree with those to a certain extent. You know, the obscure game is one I never really followed because I mostly played just, you know, mainstream Nintendo stuff. But Wario Land 4, I'm like, you know, I heard that this game was really good. I want to try it out. And I had no fucking clue what I was doing in most of it. And people were not used to me being unfamiliar with a video game. And so there was this sudden shift from, like, you know, me doing all these weird challenge runs and, like, all these self-imposed, like, yeah, just doing challenge runs, or, like, you know, me being very good at a game, being able to consistently, like, get a lot of stuff done in the 11-minute YouTube time limit. And now I'm switching to this, and I'm just kind of not getting mechanics, like, at all. And they're like, what happened? Why are you a moron now? And, like, I got a lot of hostility over that one, so it's not bad enough to be in the actively bad list, but it's, whatever. Also, I notice I'm getting Discord messages. I will have to check those, but not on screen. So, Mega Man 10 and 9 I have right next to each other. 9 I have rated higher because I like the game more. 10 I also played blind, which I think hurt it a bit. But both of those LPs, I don't remember what I talked about during them. I think I had, like, laryngitis in one of them, so that was fun. But, yeah, it's like, you know, I like Mega Man 9, but what did I talk about in the LP? Hell if I know. Katamari Damacy was, I think, what was it, like, only 3 parts long. It was kind of a filler thing that I did with letters, and it had its moments. There was the bird funeral, and there was the automatic subject generator, which led to some stupid shit. But yeah, that game is like, it was pure nonsense. Like, what do you say about it? So it doesn't really deserve to be any higher than that, I don't think. And we're capping off the D tier with Green Dog, which is, you know, the king of forgettable LPs, apparently. I used it as my measuring stick, where, like, all the things that are lower than that, I legitimately remember less of those than Green Dog. Like, I can at least kind of remember that LP. But that doesn't make it good. It was very random, and the game itself is kind of bad. But yeah, whatever. Let's see, what do we got in C? So C is the, you know, not bad but not great list. Pikmin 1. That was a pretty early one. I think it was like maybe my third capture card LP after Metroid Prime and Sunshine. I don't know. There might have been a couple other ones in there, but it was one, like, that's another thing. This one very nearly ended in the D tier just because I don't know what I talked about during it. Like, I can't remember any specific moments other than the one where this wasn't even in the LP itself, but it was in the comments where I think I just got in an argument with somebody. I don't even remember what it was for. Something about, like, I think I fucked up and the Pikmin were, like, not behaving the way I expected. Like, they climbed a stick and then I whistled them and they dropped bombs or something like that. And somebody was like, yeah, that's just how it is. Like, you should have known that. And I continued to bitch at them. And I eventually then just started deleting their comments. And they're like, oh, I see how it is. You're going to hide the evidence because it makes you look bad. And I'm like, yup. And I continued to delete their comments. I'm kind of an asshole. That's about all I remember of that one. I know the challenge on that one was supposed to be that I was going to play through the game and just kind of stick with whatever deaths I had and not reset. And I think I mostly stuck to that, but there were a few parts where I cheated and, like, a video went really bad and I just reset anyway and then acted like I didn't. So there's an element of me lying in there too, so it wasn't great. Wind Waker HD, that one was streamed with Martin. It's kind of an odd choice to have on this list, but I think a lot of the ones coming up also are. Because I never did any other playthrough of that. Well, I mean, I did a randomizer eventually, but yeah, it was just, I think for the most part, it was a Wind Waker playthrough. I remember it was the birthplace of which is the ladder climbing music. There was also the section where I think we dragged Medley around the overworld for a disproportionate amount of time. There was the part where I kept bailing the boat for some reason. Like, I don't know. It at least had its moments. It's slightly above the D tier because I at least remember some parts of it. I think there were also some points where I tried to do, like, stupid selfies. Then we have Spyro, specifically Spyro 1, because I did stream 2, but I never finished it. And Spyro 2 isn't on this list, so we can kind of count that one in here also. Now, Spyro is a game that I've streamed at least twice. I don't actually remember for sure how many times I did. And I actually do really like Spyro 1. I think a lot of people consider it to be the worst of the original trilogy, but I've always just liked its simplicity. Like, the other ones have a lot of NPCs that are like, hey, I'm the wacky character of the level, and those bad guys stole our magic french fries. Can you get them back, please? And, you go through the whole level, and it's a little... I made this complaint a while back where it's just like... The games are a little babyish, and that doesn't make them bad, but, like, if you compare it to, like, Banjo-Kazooie, like, in that game, the main characters are aware that everything happening around them is, like, really stupid, and so, like, Kazooie will miss no opportunity to make fun of everything. Spyro kind of, like, it's equally as stupid, but it kind of plays it straight almost. And it just... it's whatever. Like, I'm basically talking about 2 and 3. Like, Ripto and the Empress at no point are threatening villains, and it's like, neither is Bowser, but I feel like you're kind of supposed to... maybe I'm talking shit. I don't know. Either way, I like the first Spyro. I've streamed it a few times. Do I remember much about them? Not really. There was the one that was like... I think I did sort of a pacifist run where, like, I only killed enemies if I absolutely had to. I was going to do a gemless run at some point, and by gemless I mean, like, mostly gemless, except for when I had to collect a certain amount to get to the next world, and I would, like, map out, like, the most difficult ones to get. Like, I went through a surprising amount of effort to actually document all of this, and then I just kind of never did anything with it. But, it's... yeah, I like the game well enough. It's that's why it's here. Mario RPG, that was a stream that I remember happening around the same time as Galaxy, and much like with Galaxy, I probably suffered from commentary issues. I don't remember it really as much, but the thing with Mario RPG is, like, I have enough childhood experience with that to where I think I usually had, like, some stories to tell about it. The main reason it's as low as it is because I seem to remember it being really hindered with technical issues. For the same reason as Gex 3, it was just the computer I was recording on was not great. There was also the point where I had to switch from console to emulator for whatever reason. I don't remember what it was exactly. So it was a little bit of a mess. And I also specifically remember for the ending, I kind of wanted to do like a big grandiose outro song, and then realized that like the rest of the LP wasn't good enough to really warrant that, and I'm just like, there's no point in me putting in the effort, like, whatever, this game's done and we'll move on to something else. Psychonauts, I originally actually had a lot higher on this list until I realized that it was just kind of fine. This one kind of falls in the middle, I think, of just, you know, it was another case of the game mostly speaking for itself, because if you hadn't seen the game before, you know, it is funny. I wanted to have I didn't want to talk over any of the dialogue or anything. And that basically left, you know, a lot of me wandering around finding figments. But, I don't know. I remember at least enjoying it for the most part, and it sounds so stupid for me to be talking about this because I did that thing like less than a year ago, I think. Why am I already forgetting this LP? But that's just kind of how it is. I've done so much material at this point that it all kind of blurs together. I at least remember the part where my computer started having major issues because the hard drive was basically slowly corrupting, and so the game would just lock up, and, you know, it would be like, watch it, watch it, watch it, watch it, watch it, watch it. And it was fun. Dkc Trilogy, it was a series of streams. Those were, you know, they were fine. It was another case of me just talking about my history with the games from when I was a kid, and it went fine. That's about it. 2D Mario Retrospective. Name is slightly incorrect because I also had the Mario 64 3DS, or not 3DS, just, yeah, Mario 64 DS stream in there. But yeah, it was the point where I was like, I want to revisit all the old Mario games, and I stopped after New Soup. I never got to Galaxy or New Soup Wii or any of those. But I think they went pretty well. You know, most of them I could kind of finish the game in one stream, one or two usually. 64 DS, no one will ever be able to convince me that that game controls well. That I still don't get it, and it's the same way that people who didn't grow up with the N64 one think that that one doesn't control well. There's some sort of mental block. Like, I think the original controls perfectly. Like, it has a couple little weird things about it, but you learn them, you get over them, you learn how to work with them, and then, you know, it's fine. 64 DS just controls like you're wading through pudding, and anytime you need to turn around, it's like a fucking project, and there's probably a way to make it work better that I never figured out, but I never figured it out, so that game is just not great, in my opinion. But that aside, like I said, the rest of them, you know, I enjoyed either returning to or, in some cases, like streaming those for the first time, and it was fun. The Heart Gold Randomizer, that one was the D20 challenge, and I don't remember the exact rules. It was just, I think, like, for every area, every time I encountered a Pokemon, I had to roll a D20, and depending on the number I got, I would either, like, be forced to catch it or would not be allowed to catch it. And, like, certain numbers would basically lock the area, so where, like, you couldn't get anything else from it. I think you had to like cycle out your team or something. I don't remember, but I remember having some decently fun times with it. It was also the birthplace of Hadou. Like technically the birthplace of Hadou was a combination of the ride home from work one night when I prompted Martin to make a really shitty pigeon noise, and then it came back when we were at the like a government building in Houston and just saw a pigeon walking around. But Heart Gold Rando was the first time I ever mentioned it on stream, and so a constant running gag with me is the point where I basically needed to catch something to use fly, and I'm like, oh wait, I think I found a Hadou in the previous route, let me go get it. And people are like, what the fuck is that? And I'm like, I'm gonna find this Hadou, damn it. And people are like, you know, like, what is Hadou? Like, how do you even spell that? And I remember specifically Cheese kept spelling it Hadou, and I caught it and I nicknamed it, you know, giving it the correct spelling. And he's like, oh, I thought it was spelled Hadou with OU. And I'm like, yes, I know, you kept saying it. So, I don't know, it just became a running gag for some reason. Chibi Robo, that was another weird one. It's odd to put that one in a different tier from like Sly Cooper and some of that stuff, where like I really don't remember much of it specifically, but like the game was just so weird. Like I do remember the plot beats at least, and like, you know, some of the stuff I had to do, the things I had trouble with. Just, I don't know, it was another game that was just, it was okay. Then we have Portal 1, which I originally actually had down in the don't remember anything about this section, but then I remembered some stuff about it. Mainly the my insistence on carrying around a can of beans for most of the end game. And there was also the one where like the game fucked up and like textures kept disappearing from things. So it had its notable moments, but Portal and Portal 2 are both really just, they're kind of Kid Icarus Uprising style, where, you know, the game is mostly memorable for its dialogue and it kind of never shuts up, so I have to let it, you know, say its piece and not interrupt it too much. Yoshi's Island, Super Nintendo. That one was, I'm considering it separate from the 2D Mario Retrospective. It was a stream. I remember doing it right after Yoshi's Island DS because that game sucked such a colossal amount of ass that I had to like cleanse my palate and play a good Yoshi game. And Yoshi's Island is like one of my favorite games. I don't have a definite like top 10 or whatever. That is something I've actually considered doing at some point. And I usually say that my top 3 are Mario 64, Metroid Prime, and Majora's Mask. I think Majora's Mask is definitely number 3. The other 2 are arguable. I'm not sure which the number 1 spot is, but it's one of those. But Yoshi's Island's really high up. It's probably in my top 10. Like, I played through that game a ton of times, and I always have fun with it. And so I enjoyed streaming it and talking about my weird memories with it, such as Honeysuckle and the Maple Tree. Pikmin 3. This was, at one point I actually had Pikmin 1 and 3 next to each other because I kind of remember them equally. I can't really remember a whole lot about Pikmin 3 other than this was like right around, actually, when was it? Hold on. That's right. Okay. It was my first LP after starting my Patreon, but it wasn't ever exclusive at any point. That didn't happen until a few years later. And so it was the first one that had like the outro cards, and I briefly, you know, tried to make custom thumbnails and then eventually kind of just got bored with that. I think like partway through Paper Mario, I just stopped. But this one, you know, I'm like, I gotta put in more effort, and the reason I started the Patreon was because I had gotten fired from the call center job that I had with AT&T, and then immediately got rehired by the same call center, but working for Comcast, And so I remember at least having some work stories in that. There were definitely some in Nuts and Bolts also, but that's kind of beside the point. But yeah, that one was like, there was a point where I'm like, I'm not sure how much money I can make from doing this. I might actually be able to just make this my full-time job. And so I did put a decent amount of effort into making those good videos, and I just I wish I remembered them more. But I think they were, decent. Closing out this tier, we have Diddy Kong Racing, which was a series of streams that is memorable for basically two reasons. One of them was Martin falling asleep, but in a good way, because in the Mario 64, like, Ocarina of Time ones, it was just kind of leaving me high and dry to be the only one talking, whereas in this, there was a lot of, like, what would you call it? Sleep-induced, like, insanity. Or just, saying completely off-the-wall weird shit, like, we need to knit a sweater for Wizpig, and, like, we're collecting the silver coins to fuel the rocket ship, and just really weird crap like that. So there was that aspect of it. And then there was the part where the stream abruptly died because something within my computer exploded. I was, just streaming the game, and then just... and suddenly I smell burning rubber. I'm like, oh shit, what the fuck happened? And so that was out of commission for a while until we were able to get some help from Joel to figure out what needed to be replaced. I think that was the motherboard basically fried. I don't know what the hell happened to it, but yeah, it's at least memorable for that. So what do we got in the B tier? This one is, obviously we're getting up there, so I don't have, like, any necessary, like, any specific cutoffs for these. There's some where I just feel like, this is more of a B, this is more of a C. So these are, again, just kind of, these are good, but not my best. So the Twilight Princess Rando with Joel, that one just went up last year. It was recorded a long time ago, and then Autumn did the editing on it, and I finally got them all uploaded. It was a very long playthrough, but I think we had some good banter going on in it. The game had no shortage of stupid crap happening. I at least remember the weird stuff like, having to kill enemies by rolling into them with the iron boots. There was the Forest Temple boss that locked up because we beat it as a wolf. There's the stupid East small chest that kept plaguing us the entire game because we didn't know what the fuck it was. Just, it had some good moments. WarioWare is referring to both the original one, which I did a, like, quote-unquote speed run of. I actually, like, bothered to get the, like, the speed run timer where you can, like, make splits and stuff. Like, I did a stream of that, and then there were also the streams of WarioWare Gold. The reason it's this high is just because I think WarioWare is fun. Like, I don't want to rank these based off the game itself in most cases, because it's supposed to just be my experience with the LP, but I don't know. I remember having a reasonably good time with that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it should be down in D tier, but whatever. That's where it is. Super Mario 74. You might be surprised to have it down this low. And I think I remember that one having pretty good moments in it, but it's hard to really say because so many of the Mario 64 ROM hacks kind of blend together in my brain. I think that might have been the one with the Stone Tower level at the end, which I also lied about, much like in Pikmin, because there was the part where I finished the first Stone Tower level, and then I'm like, well, let's see what the next level is, and it's the same level but flipped upside down, and I'm like, oh, fuck. And, it was supposed to be like, like, just stupid roll credits end gag. And I was lying. I knew it was like that, but I was trying to play it off like I didn't. So anytime when I lie about something, that kind of drops it a bit. But the only other thing I really remember about that game specifically, I know that it was partially co-commentated by Martin. I think early on it was. And there was the one where the audio got saved, but the video fucked up. And so I had to make the decision, do we record the entire episode again, or do I keep the audio, which I seem to remember having some pretty decent moments in it, which is why I didn't want to throw it out, and then just kind of recreate the footage. And so I had to go back through the levels and, like, painstakingly take, like, basically screenshots of the game, like, matching where I was in the audio at that time. And so I called it, like, let's watch a slideshow of Mario 74. And people fucking hated that episode. And, you know, I can't really blame them, but I did my best. I tried. So Galaxy 2. Again, I prefer that game over Galaxy 1. And with this one, a lot of the reason it ranks so high isn't necessarily from the LP itself, but rather the planning that went into it, because I just remember, you know, me and Martin took a lot of time going through the game one level at a time, and, like, basically figuring out what could be done coinless, and for anything that presented a challenge, like, you know, really putting in the time and effort to figure out, is there any way to bypass this? And it was a fun time. I think that was one that went on hiatus for a really long time at some point also, but that aside, I remember it being fairly solid. The Pizza Tracker, you know, this was one I don't know how you rate this, because it was a single joke video, so you can't really compare it to a full LP of something, but too bad it's on here anyway. And so its placement is highly debatable, but the reason it's as high as it is because, you know, it had a legacy. Like, the fact that we did a video of the Domino's Pizza Tracker and basically just kind of criticizing it, and then it, like, launched off into a few other random rants. I think we made fun of, like, a airline commercial, or, like, some book about Shatner. I don't remember. I don't know if I ever rewatched that thing, but the Pizza Tracker video is also indirectly responsible for a lot of turns that my life has taken. I would not be living in Texas or have ever met Joel if not for the fact that the Pizza Tracker video doxed myself and caused people to send in a bunch of shit, which I would do videos of, and eventually got a like, you know, whole ass good computer to actually make content with. So it definitely left its mark. I have to respect it for that. But, you know, as its own video, it was kind of whatever. Next up, we have Brawl, which was a very long stream series, and, you know, I'm doing the 3DS one right now, so it's kind of more of the same, but Brawl at least had Subspace Emissary, and I remember, you know, having pretty decent chat interaction in that one, kind of keeping it interesting as I went, sharing a lot of stupid stories, like the time at work that everybody was high, and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it definitely had its moments. Link's Awakening and Link Between Worlds I have next to each other here, because I kind of consider... this is my thing, like, I don't know why I don't like 2D Zelda, because I like Zelda 1, and by extension I like Zelda Classic, which is the reason that I make stuff in it. But, like, every other 2D Zelda game after the first one, just, I can't get into as much, and I don't know why. And so, these two, it's like, I can barely even separate them. Well, I mean, that's not true. Okay, so with Link's Awakening, I did that one with letters, and Link Between Worlds I did with Autumn, and Both of them, there's no way in hell I would have been able to commentate the game on my own. They would have been dropped as quickly as Oracle of Seasons. But, yeah, like, what do I even say about them? They were mostly just kind of banter videos. Like, you know, I would never pay attention to what was going on in the game itself, but we would at least have, like, decent commentary, and that's about all I can say about them. Like, Link Between Worlds I finished not very long ago, and it's another, like, I've beaten that game twice now, and I like it more than Link to the Past, which I know is, like, you know, heresy. Like, you can't say that. Everybody loves Link to the Past, except for me. So it's like, I like the game decently, it's just, it's still kind of whatever. Kirby 64 was a game that I played. I think I had this one actually a lot higher on the list at one point, and I don't know why. I put it down to here. Now, honestly, I'd probably put it even lower. But it was a relatively short series. I remember at least having some pretty decent commentary in some of them, like the one where I was making fun of old commercials, and the one where I told the story about, you know, the original Hadoo and bullshit in, like, you know, dealing with bureaucracy and all that stuff. And it was also my first time ever actually finishing the game. So it was decent. A Hat in Time, that was another banter LP. Because, you know, I had letters in that one, and it was, you know, I liked the game pretty well. I remember it more than some of the other collectathons I've done recently. But would I have stuck with it on my own? Probably not. I don't know, maybe I would. That's the thing, is, like, you know, Hat in Time was a good game. I'm not even, like, shit-talking it. Like, it's not even like, oh, it was okay. Like, no, it was a good game. I am just never pleased with anything. Like, nothing ever interests me anymore. So I'm, like, constantly being derisive for no reason. But, yeah, like I said, that was another one where it's like, I kind of stuck with it longer than I expected to, because the end game challenges were such horseshit. But I wanted to give them a fair shot, and I'm glad that I did, because I feel like we got some good stuff out of that one. Then we have Portal 2, which, you know, we can divide that one in half, because the first half I mostly did on my own, and then the second half was the co-op, which I did with Joel, and Joel apparently does not remember really recording that at all, and in fact, while I was still recording that game, every time I would need to do a new segment of it, he'd be like, didn't we already finish that? And I'm like, no, we're like halfway through. Like, okay. And then, you know, the next time I have to record it, he'd be like, I thought we finished that already. So, but no, it just kind of went on forever. And I remember the co-op ones being pretty fun. You know, just constantly fucking with each other. The main game was another case of just let the game speak for itself. I don't have much to say over it, but Portal 2 is a good game. It was my second time playing through it, and I'm glad I did. Yoshi's Story Melons, I don't know why that's specified, but yeah, just the Yoshi Story LP. If you never watched this one, it was... Yoshi's Story is a weird game in general, because, you know, you only have to beat 6 out of the 24 levels to actually beat the game, and then you have, like, to play the other ones, you have to just go through it again and pick different ones. And every level can be ended extremely quickly unless you do a self-imposed challenge, like getting all the melons. And so that's what I did. I played through the game 4 times, and I got the melons in every level. And it was split up to where it basically was just kind of like filler in between longer LPs. So, like, I think it was, like, spread out over, like, 3 years. So it just kind of was a long-standing, like, event in my life. I don't know. But the reason it ranks so high on here is because this was one of the, like, this is going to be more of a thing with stuff coming up at this point of the list. It was a game where I had to put in considerable effort to get the results that I got. Because a lot of the stuff below this, you know, if it was a game that I was playing blind, obviously I'm not preparing anything ahead of time. And even some of the ones that weren't blind, I just kind of, you know, I would just go in, play it the way I normally would. This one, same as Galaxy 2, where it was basically just like I had to plan it out beforehand and kind of learn what I was doing for every recording session, because I didn't know the game that well. I'd have to find out where all the melons were on my own. I would usually try to do it mostly without a guide, I think. And, you know, it was just kind of fun putting that together. The ones where I can bring myself to put in more effort like that usually are going to be higher on my list here. Star Fox 64. It's odd that it's right next to Yoshi's Story, because it's the same thing. It's like you play through the game 3 different times to visit all the levels, and did I do it 3 more times on Expert? I actually don't even remember. I want to say I did. But this one, I'm going to be honest, it's only this high on the list because I love that game. It's another one that I would probably put in my top 10 games of all time. I fucking love Star Fox 64. I'll play through that game anytime. It's short and satisfying. It's extremely quotable, and it's just, I've found more, you know, as I get older, that you know, as much as I want to try to get into RPGs or anything that's even remotely like strategy based or slow paced, like, there are times where I can. It's not impossible, but I will almost always prefer just kind of a quick trigger finger reactionary game. And, you know, that's maybe telling me that the fact that I don't ever play FPSs might be a mistake. Maybe I'd like some, but I don't know. I find those just in concept not as interesting. But, you know, anything like the old Mega Man games and stuff like that, and like even Metroid, it's like Metroid's not as action based as necessarily as other stuff necessarily, because it's more like exploration based mostly. But I don't know, those are the kind of games I tend to like more. So yeah, that game is pretty much up there just because I like the game. The LP I don't remember a whole lot of, but fuck it, I don't care. Pokemon Emerald. This one, is this the lowest? Okay, it's the lowest proper LP of a Pokemon game that I've done, because the other ones were streams. That one was kind of a mess, because if you haven't watched it, the first half of the game, it wasn't even, was it a half? It was like, I think a little bit less than half, was done with Martin being the one playing, going through the game blind. You know, not long after first introducing him to Pokemon in general, because we went through Shiny Gold, which was a hack of Gen 3 that made it into Gen 2, basically. We did that, Platinum, I think Soul Silver. I think White had already come out by that point, or like Black and White. I don't remember, but yeah, it was a blind one. First time seeing a lot of Gen 3 stuff, and I liked that aspect of it. It was cool. And then basically the game got dropped, and months and months later, I picked it up again, having to replay up to the game with the same team, like stopping at the same point, and then just kind of continued it on my own. And for the most part, it was a normal playthrough, but it had a few standout weird episodes, such as Decorate Elf, which was the contest episode where I did a weird little bit with, like, piling a bunch of shit onto a Pikachu sprite in MS Paint. It was pretty good. There was the one where I went through the entire episode pretending to be Sir Ron Lionheart. And yeah, all right. That one was the fucking trip. There was Of course, there's the one with the shiny tentacle, which was whatever. I still find my reaction to that very cringy, because I'm just like, oh my god, guys, off screen, look what I fucking found. Holy fuck, it's a fucking shiny fucking tentacle. Oh my fucking god, guys, I can't fucking believe it. Like, it was, I don't know what the hell I was basically like, I was trying to be reactionary clickbait YouTube years before that was kind of what the site, like, really turned into. I don't know. But then, of course, there was the Battle Frontier, which was kind of a mess, but we don't talk about that. But yeah, you know, solid playthrough. I enjoyed that run for the most part. It had its ups and downs. There was also the one where I ranted about the ocean routes kind of sucking, and the Untitled Chapter rant. So yeah, I remember a lot of stuff from that one. Super Demo World is another pretty old one. The number one thing that anyone is going to remember from this LP is from, I think, the second to last episode. It was one of the last ones, at least, where I randomly had my brother Jordan with me, and we told the story about Jonah having a hissy fit over losing in Mario Kart Wii, and then wanting to make scrap metal gloves to slap us in the face, and then went off on a, like, destructive rage and was, like, gonna fuck with the circuit board, or I don't know. Jonah just went completely batshit insane. That was the best episode by far. If we ignore that episode, I don't remember a ton about it. I remember the game, you know, being one of the, if not the first, like, Mario World ROM hack, at least one of the first. And, you know, it introduced some pretty cool stuff, but obviously it's been surpassed since then. But I don't know. I liked the game well enough. I liked the game when I got stuck in a wall. 6 out of 10. So now we have Gex 2. It just says Gex, but yeah, it's Gex, enter the Gex. Gex 64 / Gex 2, enter the Gecko, because they're the same game. That's another old classic. That was the one where I kind of went into the game where, like, I had played it before, and I remembered liking it, but it's also a really derpy game that is kind of not that great. And so, you know, this was the era of AVGN and Nostalgia Critic and all that, where, you know, it's cool to make fun of stuff. So I kind of went in being, like, overly harsh on it, and people kind of called me out in the first video, and, like, it got a shit ton of downvotes and, like, angry comments, like, listen to this asshole, this motherfucker that sounds like Squidward, he doesn't know a good game when he like, he can't tell a good game from a hole in the ground. And I'm just like, just fucking shut up. And so I had to turn comments off on that video. But I you know, as it went, you know, part of me making fun of it was sort of an act, but it was also like, you know, this game hasn't aged very gracefully. It's kind of shit. But I warmed up to it, and I feel like I had an arc during that LP. It was a fun time. Also, there were some pretty good technical issues that happened. Now we have Conker's Bad Fur Day, which is a game that I will never understand the praise for. It's so high on this list, not because I like the game, because the game is, like, okay. As I described in the LP, it starts out, like, really funny, and it just kind of dive bombs as it goes. Like, it gets worse the farther you get into it, and the mechanics start out with, like, you know, we're gonna go do this thing, and then go do it a second time, and then go do it a third time, and each time it gets a little bit more annoying. And that gameplay style is translated throughout the entire game, and it gets to the point where it's fucking unbearable. And, like, you know, here you're carrying the keys through the fucking vampire castle, and it takes, like, half an hour, and if you fuck up once on the last key, you gotta start all the way back from the first one, and it's... That game is not designed well, but boy did I have a fun time making fun of it. It's another game where I can say I'm glad I played it, because I'd watched a couple LPs of it, and I'm like, this kind of looks like shit, but it's the type of shit that I need to experience for myself, and I did, and it was something. Again, I won't even say that it's a bad game, it's just nowhere near as good as people say it is. Then we have Pokemon Crystal, which you may be shocked to see this high on the list, given that it's unfinished, and I've kind of been, like, putting it off for 4 years at this point. When did I don't even remember when I started that game. It was before Sword and Shield were even announced, at least. It was a long time ago. But, anyway, the reason it's on here is because for the parts that I did make, it's another one of those LPs that I feel like I put a good amount of effort into it, and so I have to at least kind of be happy with that. I do want to finish it, and when I do, I will probably not be doing the bios, because as much as I kind of did like making those, they took a shit ton of time. And basically the episodes kind of had to be designed around them. I had to, like, plan when I was going to be catching stuff, and, like, make sure that I had enough time afterward without anything majorly notable happening to where, like, I could allot the 4 minutes to talk about the Pokemon. And it's really hard to, like, script that ahead of time. So it was basically just really challenging and limiting in how I could play the game, and now that I'm in the second half of it, and there's so many evolutions to do, and also grinding in that game is a pain in the ass, so, like, any of the ones that you have to level up a lot, like, there's no way to really do that other than just doing it off screen, and it's like, what do I just suddenly decide, like, okay, I'm gonna shove a Skiploom onto my team for 2 minutes while I fight this trainer and evolve it, and then talk about Jumpluff for 4 minutes while I fight these other trainers? Like, how do you plan that? It's hard, and Kanto in Gen 2 fucking sucks. So I'm pretty much gonna have to drop that gimmick, but while it lasted, I did like it. It was an ordeal, but I feel like I did a decent job. So we're moving on to the 8 here, so not the best ever, but pretty good. And we have a pretty long tier here. I have been going for quite a while here. This video is going to be a lot longer than I thought it was. So let's start out then. A, we have Mega Man Dr. Wily's Revenge. That one is... this is a meaningless title, but for a while it was my longest LP. And it's like, okay, so... Like, when you only had one, that was your longest LP. What's the big deal? But it was, like, my first really long game that I did. It was 70 parts, still with the 11-minute YouTube time limit. It was a game that basically nobody knew about, that I knew a lot about, because I'd played through it several times. I actually bug tested for a updated version of it at one point, and I, like, when I was... like stranded in hotels throughout most of 2005, I spent a ridiculous amount of time piecing together maps out of screenshots to map out the entire game, which I really wish I still had those maps, but they got lost on an old computer that died, unfortunately. It was one of those games that it was more of a personal experience than most other stuff, and I have since then played through the quest a couple more times, including one like a year ago, and it kind of doesn't hold up that well. It's really tedious at some points, but I have to still give it credit for its ambition, it's a very big quest. It's just kind of empty and bleh at some points, but I still can't hate it. So it's a low A, but I would never be able to consider that anything less than an A. Then we have the Ocarina of Time 100% single segment stream, which was me beating the entire game in like 14 hours, which, you know, the speed run can do it in 4 hours, but I am not a speedrunner. It was just, you know, I've played through Ocarina of Time multiple times for the channel, never as a proper LP, at least in an unhacked state, but, you know, I've done randomizers, I've done that one. I did a race, which is not on this list, but I remember the race being kind of annoying at the beginning. I don't remember how it ended. But anyway, yeah, I liked the marathon aspect of it. It's very rare that I play a game for that long. Then we have the Ape Escape, another old LP. I already talked about Ape Escape earlier in regard to the Autumn one. It was just, I think it was my first PlayStation LP. I also remember having issues with, like, because the game required a controller, and, like, everything before that I was playing on keyboard. But the other thing I'll always remember from that one is the fact that when I would end a level, Spike would get really loud, and for some reason the loudness would cause the recording to lag. I have no explanation for that, but that was what would happen. And it was another classic old game where I'm, you know, sharing my memories of it and just kind of riffing on it as I go. Same can probably apply to Banjo-Tooie. Banjo-Tooie was like, at that point, I liked that game better than Banjo-Kazooie. My opinion has flipped since then, but I still do like Tooie a lot. And that was because of with that game, I had the history with it where I wanted to do a speed run of it, and so I like did route kind of the first half of the game way back in like 2004, and then never actually did the speed run because of, you know, allegedly my house getting hit by a truck, according to somebody on SDA forums. Don't ask. But yeah, it was just another one where it's like, you know, I'm going to show you a game that you very likely may already be aware of, but this is my take on it, and I'm going to be, you know, speedrunning it, or at least the first half of it, like doing weird routes and like tricks that I've discovered and stuff. So it was fun. We have another Mario adventure, which, if you actually look above this, you'll see 3 other ROM hacks. We'll get to those, you know, in due time. This one is a little lower than those, just because it's kind of too new. Like, at the time I'm recording this, you know, I've been done with the game for a while, but it isn't even, like, fully uploaded to YouTube yet. And so, if I'm trying to pick out, you know, moments from the game that I thought were really good, I think the ROM hack itself was good. It had a lot of really ambitious levels. I still like the Space Train one. It's probably my favorite. There were some really cool ones in there. Lots of interesting gimmicks. But I can't really think of many moments of, like, ROM hack stupidity, which is usually kind of what makes the Mario 64 hack videos good, is just when it's poorly constructed and I'm just kind of like in disbelief of it. Those tend to be funnier, and this game was like almost too well made. Also, I think I had 2 different puking incidents in that one. One of them might have been in B3313. Yeah, actually, I'm pretty sure it was, but either way, I had a puking incident, and I had my heated gamer moment where I threw my chair at the wall because I got pissed off at Z-Quest. So those are strikes against it. Now we have Isle of the Winds, which was the Zelda Classic Quest. I did that basically right around the start of me planning for Bikdip's Adventure 3. It was a way of kind of re-familiarizing myself with Zelda Classic 192 and what its limitations are and that kind of thing. And it was a quest that I had started back in 2005, never finished, and I'm like, I want to go back and finish this game. And I remember it having a lot of enemy spam, but other than that, being a pretty solid experience. And it was just a fun game to play through. Pokemon Yellow. Kind of surprised to have this one so low, actually, but there's a lot of Pokemon playthroughs. This one, the main thing with Yellow was I was filling out the Pokedex, and a lot of it was with Mew Glitch, and I had a few other glitches in there, like Brock through walls early on, and I showed off like Glitch City and that kind of stuff. And I was going to also have a Pokemon Stadium follow-up where I used my team from that in Stadium, but then I remembered that Stadium was incredibly boring, so I didn't go through with that. But yeah, the Yellow playthrough was just, generally a fun time. Gen 1 is kind of such a buggy mess. Playing through it in any fashion other than showing off all the bugs would kind of be a disservice to it, I think. And that was also the LP where I had the running gag of every episode had to have a Pokemon anime title card with some they would get increasingly more ridiculous, and sometimes they would happen 75% of the way through the video. There was the one where the title card was just an entire phone call that I got in the middle of a video. It was pretty good. Nightmare in Dreamland / Kirby's Adventure comparison LP. That one was, again, it was just kind of fun to put together. And actually, I'm going to combine that with the one next to it, which is, it says NES Metroid. I'm treating that as the dual LP of Zero Mission and the original, where I kind of played through them side by side and kind of compared the two. Because both of those were, comparing a NES game to a GBA remake, and it was just, yeah, I mean, they were very similar playthroughs. It's just one of them was done way later than the other and also incorporated multiplayer with Martin in there. But yeah, they were both kind of fun to put together. I don't have a whole lot else to say about them. Also, Zero Mission is one of my favorite games. Donkey Kong 64. That one is specifically referring to the stream that I did around 2014 or something. I did also co-commentate a stream of that Autumn did, and I think one with Joel that never got actually uploaded anywhere. But this was specifically the old one with Martin, and that one was done during a very dry period where I was not uploading anything, and I hadn't streamed anything in ages, and then just out of nowhere, I'm I'm going to stream this game and kind of not really tell anyone. And so, I would get some people in chat, but I remember seeing afterwards, real good plan there. Be completely radio silent for a year and a half, and then don't announce a stream that you're doing. Yeah, that'll get lots of viewers. And yet somehow I feel like I got more viewers from that than what I get currently, so make it that way you will. But DK64 is much like Conker in the sense that the game is kind of shit, but it's shit in a different way, and it's... I will never get sick of making fun of that game, but I always keep coming back to it, because unlike Conker, which is borderline unplayable, DK64 is kind of a train wreck that's just fun to watch, and it's I enjoy it in the same sense that I like Spyro 1, because it's just kind of brainless wandering around collecting crap and not really doing much else. But it's also just kind of badly designed, and so I like just being able to make fun of its design issues. It's a very weird game. Next up we have Mild Escape, which is also going to be grouped with Rifflash here, which I have right next to it. So Mild Escape specifically refers to the series of Japanese escape the room games that I would usually stream with Joel, and just kind of, being in awe of the completely ludicrous puzzle solutions that would be in these. They were definitely fun to do. And Rifflash is kind of a combination of a few things. At least that's how I'm treating it. There was the videos that were officially titled Rifflash, which was me and Martin playing through Flash games usually and just making fun of them, basically the same way that Retrospective did. I'm also going to combine that with Random Crap Week and just a few random, like, unlabeled Flash games that we would do occasionally. Basically just anything of that style. They're hit or miss. They're not always going to be comedy gold, but I feel like they hit a lot of highs. They had a lot of good moments. Pokemon Soul Silver was the text LP that I did that is hosted on my, 1974 era Free Webs website. It was that, plus I did, videos of the gym leaders, basically. Or... I did the Elite Four, and I think... the Kanto gym leaders. I don't think I did videos for the Johto gym leaders, but either way. Yeah, I don't know. I liked making that one. I had more fun doing that one than Moon, and that's probably because with this one I didn't have anything else going on in my life, so I could just kind of dedicate most of my day to playing through the game, taking notes on it, and then writing overly long descriptions of everything that happened with my usual writing style of sentences having at least 7 commas in them and going on for 5 lines, never knowing when to end a thought. I'm not the biggest fan of my own writing, let's just say that, but I had fun doing it. I've read through it a couple times, and it was bad writing aside, I still think it kind of holds up. So Tomb Raider games, that is going to be ignoring my failed attempt at doing Last Revelation, way back in the day around the same time I did Oracle of Seasons, but what that one counts is the Tomb Raider streams that I did with Joel, and Letters was in a lot of them. Usually these would be things that we would stream, up until, 3 a.m., and we would just get kind of, loopy tired and just laughing at the ridiculousness of them, because, Tomb Raider is such a slow-paced, boring-as-shit game most of the time, but for some reason I keep going back to it. And, yeah, there were just... These streams were good for the highlights. There would be nothing going on for half an hour, but we could at least kind of make fun of the obtuseness of the puzzles and figuring out what to do. But then just something stupid would happen, just something like a glitch, or we'd barely miss a jump and fucking fall 500 feet and crumple into a pile into an area that plays the you found a secret music, and it just we'd die laughing from it. So they were just kind of a good time. Next here we have, I'm going to group all these together, Last Impact, Mushroom Cup, and Luigi's Adventure, which were all Mario 64 ROM hacks. I do have those in that order for a reason. I feel like, again, it's, I said it before, I think the shittier a ROM hack is, the more fun it is. At least from a LPing sense. And Luigi's Adventure was, I usually called that one Green Mario, but it was, Star Revenge 6, so it was the 6th game, at least, because I think most of these games had, 2 variants that the guy would make. It was the 6th game from this person. I don't know how he had enough level ideas to keep these going, and it was because the levels were usually not kind of bad. And Like, you know, there was constant, like, grammatical errors and just bizarre dialogue, and that also was plaguing Mushroom Cup constantly. Like, that game was basically lol random, like, you know, 2007 humor. But those were fun. They definitely had a lot of good moments in them. And then Last Impact was, you know, a technically solid game. Definitely one of the better ROM hacks I've played, and so that actually is points against it because it wasn't as fun to make fun of. But there were still good moments that came from it. I can't remember them as much because they all kind of blend together to me. So we can basically just say, like, you know, most SM64 ROM hacks are pretty high up on the tier, and where they stand is kind of arbitrary, honestly. So now we have Metroid Fusion and Super Metroid. I'm going to group these together also. Fusion, a little bit lower. That one was me doing a 0% run, so I had no E-tanks, no missiles, and the entire game was recorded ahead of time, and then I did post-commentary with Gabutroid. And it was pretty fun. I think there were not that many parts that were terrible. It was I mean, like, some of the late game bosses were pretty ass, but it was one of those things where it's like, you know, I just kind of had to power through it, and then, you know, we talk over it later, and, you know, it was just kind of a time. But it was a different approach to LPs, like, compared to what I usually do. Then Super Metroid, that was the one where I did the NBMB run, which was no boss, mini-boss, so basically avoiding every boss in the game, while collecting as many items as possible. And then, after doing all that, I would do reverse boss order, so fighting Ridley, then going backwards, basically. And it was every bit as bad as it sounds. The first half of the game was mostly normal until I got to the last few items where I had to get, you know, Powerbomb 66, which was the one where you had to do, like, a pixel-perfect, frame-perfect wall jump in an underwater cavern without the gravity suit, and it was fucking awful. And so, like, I got that, and then had to head into Lower Norfair with no Varia suit, so it was a constant fight for my life and reloading save states every 2 seconds. Also that I could have the privilege of fighting Ridley with no Varia suit, which led to the infamous, I would like to see the extra Ridley footage video. If you don't know the history behind that one, it was pretty good. But, you know, that's kind of the charm of that one, is it was so fucking bad, but I managed to get through it anyway. And it kind of, like, it got terrible in the middle, and then it got easier as it went. So that was a freaking weird playthrough. But, yeah, I don't have anything else to say about that one. It was good. Pokemon Platinum. That was the one where I did the baby-only challenge, so my whole team was baby Pokemon, and the other ongoing gimmick in that one was, at least for the start of the LP, I think I eventually ran out of things to talk about, but every video I would do, I would basically recount my tales with a previous Pokemon game that I had played through, just kind of sharing what my team was, like what I did in it, any memorable moments, that kind of thing. And so I liked kind of having that consistent format to it, where I always had, like, a specific thing to talk about. I don't usually do stuff like that. And Platinum was also the video that brought us my tribute to the extremely shitty early videos from Datai, where he had whale noises from the microphone and terrible, like, transparent recording watermarks on it. That thing was fucking amazing to put together. It was, like, It's one of my favorite things that I've ever made. It was such an esoteric reference. I knew like 3 people were gonna get it, but it was gonna be so worth it for those 3 people, because I tried really hard to capture the feeling of one of those videos, and I think I did it like spot on. So I gotta give it points for that one alone. That video was fucking amazing. Next we have Mario 64 Capless Cannonless Coinless Run, and also its sequel series, which was remaining capless and cannonless, but getting every coin in the game. It was technically 2 separate LPs, but they were linked together. And that was my first Mario 64 LP. It wasn't my first time doing it for the channel, because I had the video quiz before that, but it was the first time I got to really talk about it, and, I am very passionate about that game. I'm not a speedrunner of it, I'm not up to date on all the tricks, but I like doing a lot of the exploits and a lot of the weird shit you can do in it, and, I just had fun going through it and showing that off. That's pretty much all there is to it. Pikmin 2. This one I would actually... This is really debatable. I know this is my list, and, like, other people can't really have input on it, but I feel like most people would put this one way lower. Pikmin 2 was a hell of a time. That one was one of my first, capture card LPs, and I think I recorded it before Pikmin 1, but I recorded it 100%, no commentary. And it was because I was doing a 8-day challenge, which, at least at the time, was the lowest you could do it in. I think it might actually be lower now, I'm not sure. But, it was, for me at least, a pretty difficult challenge, and so I had to be able to stitch together successful runs of the different, caves and stuff, and for some of the overworld sections, they were such a pain in the ass that, I wanted to be able to record it a couple dozen times until I got it right without having to worry about actually commentating over it. So I did all of this. I had all the footage, and it looked like hot garbage, because this was back when I had potato quality and my videos were 2 by 3 pixels. But I had this footage for, I want to say, at least a year. I think it was maybe even 2 years, where I was holding on to it because I wanted to co-commentate it with my friend Fiona, and there was just issues with basically not being able to schedule that, and so we finally got around to doing it. I think we did 8 episodes, and as I uploaded them, people were being rude for basically making fun of her voice and stuff, and I'm just people do it to me too, it sucks, just ignore them. But she was upset by that and didn't want to do it anymore. And so then I ended up finishing the series with somebody else who went by Hasp. I want to say it was just somebody that commented on my videos fairly often. I honestly don't even remember, and I feel bad for saying that, but we haven't talked in a long time, so I'm sorry. But either way, it was this one's high up just because it was challenging to put together. It had an interesting history. And it was a challenge run, and I feel like most of my challenge runs kind of are going to be high on this list. Plus, I just really like Pikmin 2. Mario Sunshine. People might be shocked to see this one as low as it is, because I think this one is kind of considered the gold standard of my LPs by the majority. And I will not deny that it's good. It's a good mix of constantly being interrupted by kids and just kind of generally dealing with the game's jank. And I feel like I also probably had solid commentary. I can at least remember the one where I'm talking about there was the one with Jonah ranting about getting a bunch of mealworms to piss off his dad or something. I don't know. There's one with the crabs. There was one where I just tried to record a video with Justin playing, and it kind of didn't go that well. But I uploaded it anyway, and people were like, "You're so mean," and I'm like, "What did I do? What?" I don't know, but it's a very memorable one. The things holding it back are the fucking atrocious video quality. I don't know how that's honestly even watchable. Plus, it had the weird Satan voice issues. There were a lot of other LPs that also had this, where my computer had this bizarre issue where, I don't remember if it was when the internet randomly disconnected. No, I think there were two separate issues, and this might have even been on different computers. It's been so long, I don't remember. There was the one where my like Wi-Fi connection would just randomly drop for a couple seconds, like every few minutes, and every time it would do that, the video would lag really badly. And then there was the issue where I had the world's most sensitive, like AC adapter plug, where if I breathed on the laptop the wrong way, it would beep really loud, and it would cause the I think it would cause the stream, like the recording, to lag, but it would also make my voice drop like 17 octaves for no reason. And so we got Satan voice, and I seem to remember Sunshine having a lot of that in it. But yeah, that's the one that's like famous for, like, I was doing a coinless run, and coinless runs existed for Mario 64, but nobody really did them for Sunshine at that point. I'm not going to say I was the first person to do it, but it wasn't like well documented, at least. And there were a lot of people early on who were like, it's not going to be even difficult. Like, you know, this game doesn't have coins as much as 64. It's like, I don't even know where that claim came from, but people believed it. And it was consistently an issue throughout the run. And it spawned the never-ending comments, why aren't you collecting coins? I'm like, maybe you should not start watching from part fucking 37 and just not understand the point of the challenge, dipshit. But whatever. So yeah, like I said, it is. I can't consider it my best work, but it's definitely, like, it's noteworthy. Would I recommend it to people now? Not really. Like, I also have an issue where, like, I really don't like listening to my older videos because I kind of hate my old voice, and also just listening to the quality is kind of bad, but yeah, what you gonna do? So the last one in this tier is the 4-way Ocarina of Time multi-world, which I just finished uploading not too long ago. That was me, Martin, Joel, and Autumn. Yeah, just all playing through Ocarina of Time at the same time, randomized with items in other people's games, basically. And it was a stream series that, you know, you never knew what you were going to get with that one. I feel a little weird putting it as high as I did, but I would say it's one of the, like, I've had more fun with that than a lot of other stuff that I've done recently, to the point where I've actually done at least 3 other multi-worlds with Autumn, and also with Joel in one of them, and I'm not opposed to doing more after that. They're hard to organize when you have a lot of people involved, and I know there are people who still want me to do another one with a whole bunch of people. I would love to, if I knew of a good way to guarantee that everybody that wants to do it is going to be available at the time for a good amount of time, like, to get it done, because it's a long game, and if one person is missing, we can't continue. So, like, that's a problem. But yeah, it was also a very rare case of me actually rewatching a stream, or even, like, back in the old days, I used to do editing on my videos, and I would, like, actually rewatch them after recording them and kind of trim some of the fat, and I haven't done that really in a long time because I'm lazy. And I almost never rewatch streams before uploading them. This was a rare exception where I watched every minute of that, because I had to edit it anyway, and I didn't do much editing. Usually I could just kind of, set up the arrangement of the streams at the beginning and then just leave it for the entire thing. But I always wanted to check, is there anything weird that I have to edit around? Like, does something happen where, like, I need to move something? And I usually didn't, but as I did it anyway. And I don't know, I enjoyed rewatching it. So, finally coming up to the final tier, and I'm going to show the bottom half first, because it's another 2 rows, so we'll save the last row. It'll be a secret, and you can, like, gather. You can try to remember, like, oh, what hasn't been shown yet? What's going to be at the top? So, we have I Want to Be the Guy. So, yeah, first of all, S tier, like, some of these are kind of arbitrary, but for S tier, the things that are up here are what I would basically consider, like, it's easy to say, like, my best stuff, but more specifically, it's the things that kind of are special to me specifically. It's either, like, a thing that I did that nobody else did, or, like, I approached in a very unique manner, or just has some sort of special connection to me as a person, that kind of thing. Or in some cases just was really funny. That's pretty much it. So yeah, that's pretty much what this tier is. So I Want to Be the Guy. It's mostly referring to my very first set of videos for it, which I uploaded with no commentary before I started doing LPs. So it kind of doesn't count, but it's like I eventually did do commentated playthroughs of it later, in various formats. There was one where I did the whole thing and, like, had to sing the soundtrack in, like, a separate audio file, or like a different audio track, like, while I was also commentating it. That one was kind of a mess. But I'm mostly just thinking of the original one, which was during the days of, anything I would upload was just something I thought was neat. And I didn't know that LPs existed at the time. And so, I found this game just kind of randomly one day. It was mentioned on TV Tropes, and I'm like, this sounds stupid. I want to try it. And I did. And I beat it, and I'm like, that was fun. I should record this, because I don't know if a lot of people know about this game yet. And, people did do LPs of it, and it became ridiculously, like, overexposed. But I was still one of the first people to do it. And even without the commentary, it got me a lot of my viewers. So even though the videos were very choppy and often froze, because my computer was old and shitty and Cam Studio was old and shitty, they still did what they needed to, I guess. Now we have Releasio, which is basically Super Releasio 64. It's the Mario 64 ROM hack where you are Toad and everything is awful. That was, I did a series of streams on that game, and where I 100%ed that game, and I don't know why, because it was fucking atrocious from start to end. But that's kind of what made it great, because it was so unbearably bad that I kind of had to just power through it. Like, I don't know, like, what else do you even say about that? It was, like, my favorite moment from that was in Snowman. Like, the way the game played was, like, as soon as you start moving, you immediately accelerate to, like, a stupidly fast rate. And if you ever, like, when you try to stop moving, you then, like, slide off, and it becomes, like, impossible to control. And anytime that you try to press B or Z for anything, it, like, warps you back 50 feet. And so I went into Snowman's Land, and I'm like, I wonder if I can just make use of this. And I'm like, can I just teleport straight into the Ice Cube star? Yes. Like, I did it and just immediately landed on the star and got it, like, as I was questioning, can you do this? And it was so fucking good. So next is Random Z Quests, or Zelda Classic Quests. It was a filler series that I did, and technically, I guess I'm still doing. I did one pretty recently that isn't public yet. Basically, just filler series for my Patreon stuff, where I just find a random Zelda Classic quest, usually one that sounds bad or just, like, you know, unique in some way. And a lot of times I'll play them start to finish. Sometimes I'll just, you know, play a little bit of it if it's a longer quest. But they're a mixed bag, but some of them I think were really funny. The one where I did the ridiculously bad Metroid quest is probably my favorite. Like, I rewatched that a couple times and I kept laughing at it. Like, if I can laugh at my own jokes, that's usually a good sign, because a lot of times I'll just listen to myself. I'm like, I need to shut the fuck up. Like, why am I still talking? So Pokemon Fire Red Omega, that was my first big Pokemon LP, I think. It was, you know, it's a Fire Red ROM hack. It adds all 386 Pokemon available. It's higher difficulty. And it was mostly just kind of a chill playthrough, but I also was filling the Pokedex in that one. And why is it so high? I don't really know, other than I always kind of saw that one as, like, you know, one of my crowning achievements. I got through this game using a team of kind of subpar stuff, and I caught everything. Some of the stuff I kind of had to go through great lengths to do that, because there were some Pokemon that just weren't in the hack, so I even had to use Advanced Map to edit them in. And it all culminated in episode 100. I somehow managed to end it perfectly like that, where I beat the, you know, Elite Four rematch with all the higher levels and stuff. And I ended it with what I believe is still probably one of my best, like, or most impressive things that I've ever made. There's a couple things that might like surpass that, but the credit sequence that I made for that video took me, like, so much fucking work. I animated that thing frame by frame with, like, using sprites, and then just you know, saving each frame as a separate image and then putting them in to, like, Windows Movie Maker and making kind of like a slide, like almost like a flip book out of it. I really liked how that came out. It was a great ending. So next we have, it's mislabeled here, but Home Stream Watcher, which was the series of streams I did in 2020, where I basically went through the entire Homestar Runner body of work and watched every bit of it while giving my own input occasionally. It's definitely not something that really anybody else has done. I liked being able to revisit all the material and share it with people who hadn't seen it before, and kind of give, you know, my own personal experiences with it, because Homestar has been a pretty major component of, I mean, I guess really just of my life in general, but, like, you know, my sense of humor, the type of stuff that I enjoy on the internet, like, you know, just old Flash cartoons in general, I think are highly underappreciated as a, you know, form of entertainment. But, you know, Homestar was something special, and it is still going. You know, obviously it doesn't update nearly as much as it used to, but I'm glad they're still around, because that is it was one of a kind. We're never going to get another Homestar. Like, you know, just this ongoing passion project from a couple of nobodies that just put this out, and it became like a massive hit, and it was really cool. As far as continuing that, I did actually say at one point that I would probably want to, you know, I did all the material up to 2020, with it ending with the final Stinko Man level finally being made, which is a really nice send-off. But there is still new material. I think, like, I didn't do one last year. I think at the end of this year I'll probably do another stream just covering the last 2 years of stuff that they did. It'll be good to keep up with it. So next up, we've got Bikdip's Adventure, the first one. So all my Zelda Classic quests are going to be up here, just because they're my own things, and so I've got plenty to say about them. That's really all there is to it. So Bikdip's Adventure, the game itself is kind of god awful. I've gotten more harsh on it over the years. There was a point where I'm like, it was okay for at least for a first game, and now I'm just like, that thing was fucking horrible from start to finish. Like, there is no redeeming factors of that game. It's like, it's playable, but it's boring and really goddamn poorly constructed. The one thing I can say about it is it isn't buggy. But the LP of it was fun, because, I got to make fun of it as I went. We, of course, got stuff like, you have to burn the map and that kind of thing. And at the end of the LP, we got Bikdip Rage, which was... I don't think it wasn't my first musical ending, I don't think. I don't remember the timeline of, what order I uploaded everything, but it was the one that, kind of everyone remembered, at least. And nowadays, I will not listen to that song. It is cringe incarnate. But, at the time, I was kind of happy. I obviously, I must have been happy with it on some level, otherwise I wouldn't have uploaded it. I put together a pretty decent parody song. I think my favorite line in that is still, I forget what the line was leading up to it, but it's plus I've made it, so I've played it. I'm not bragging. I'm just trying not to be like Kyan. Kyan being the creator of I Want to Be the Guy, because he did an LP of his own game and kind of sucked ass at it. And so I thought that line was pretty clever. But yeah, just a solid experience overall. Mitch is kind of more of the same. It was one of my first LPs. I did it after Metroid 2. I think it might have been my next major thing after that, if we don't count random shit like Fantasy Zone. But that was another one where it's I think I went into it thinking the game was going to be better than it was, because it hadn't been long since I played it, but I didn't remember every little detail of it. And so there were a few parts that kind of caught me off guard, like the few times that I got tripped up on sections that required you to have a bunch of rupees, which pissed me off. Plus, it just had a lot of really stupid puzzle solutions here and there, especially in the second half of the game. Level 8 is fucking god awful. But yeah, it was another fun one. That was also the one that had the Dora the Explorer rant, because that show's terrible. Next one, this is a really weird one. The Great Cave Offensive. I still stand by my reasoning for putting this up here. This is another really, really old one of mine. I have gone, if you don't know, Great Cave Offensive is specifically one of the games from Kirby Superstar. And I've streamed that game in its entirety, I think, 2 or 3 times since then. I went through it once with Joel, I went through it once with Autumn, I've done it at least once on my own, if not twice. Kirby Superstar, another probably top 10 game of mine. But my first ever video of it, I didn't even call it a Let's Play, I think. It was just called a semi-speed run. I recorded it way back, around the Mitch era. And the reason it's on here is because I was on fucking meth in these videos. I don't know what happened. When I was recording them, I was nothing at all like my usual self. I was very, very hyper and just way weirder than usual. And so that's why this one is rated so highly, is because it's just, I don't know, there was something about it that was just so out of character for me, and I had so much weird energy going into it that you kind of gotta love it. Next is Mario Kart Retrospective. That was the series I did for the Patreon videos a few years ago, where I just went through every Mario Kart in order, did every level, usually going through them with Joel, except for the DS and 3DS ones, I think. And yeah, it's like I have very little to say about this one. It was generally fun to revisit them. I feel like I got to kind of share some decent stories about growing up with those games, and that's really all there is to it. Next up, we have Boom Blocks, which is on here for basically the same reason as like Pizza Tracker, where it was just, it was a flash in the pan, like one random thing that was just kind of amazing. If you don't know about it, you're kind of missing out. I think I did a couple streams of Boom Blocks, actually, but there's one that I have uploaded that's specifically called Boom Blocks Gone Sexual, which was just, it was me, Martin, and Joel, I think, playing Boom Blocks, and I was reading out random sections of, like, Hogwarts Exposed, which is the ridiculously horrible, like perverted isn't the right word, just like, not safe for life Harry Potter fanfic, where everybody's a nudist and everybody's underage, and it's like really fucking creepy. Like, I was just randomly reading passages of that while we went, and we were just, laughing at its awfulness, and it was a good time. I'm gonna try to actually do these last ones as like a top 10 here, where I'm going to reveal them one at a time, so let me pause the recording real quick. Alright, yeah, we will be getting assistance from a Hadoo here. So, we are into, I don't think it's 10, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the top 12. So, let us go ahead and slide the Hadoo over, and, very shortly here. First up, we have Action 52. This was one of the first Patreon exclusive LPs. It was done as a, like, once per month thing, same way that I did the Mario Kart Retrospective, where I just basically forced myself to play through all of Action 52, much to my own chagrin, basically. Because that game is fucking god-awful, and I just am like, I gotta experience it myself. I've seen so many reviews of this game. I made like a Mario Maker level based off of it. I have to play the original game, and it was bad, and I powered through it, and I could be wrong, but I seem to remember somehow remaining like consistently funny throughout those. Like, I would have absolutely nothing to work with, because it would just be generic space shooter number 15, and like, what do I talk about? And I found ways to talk about stuff. I couldn't tell you how, but I did. So coming up next here, we got Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. This one was just fun to put together. The game itself was kind of like, Not that the game itself is bad, but, like, my experience playing through it again. Like, I liked that game, and I did a 100% run, and it got really grindy and bad towards the end, but, it wasn't terrible. But the main thing to take away from that one was the voice acting, because I basically voice acted every major bit of dialogue in the game. And I had, Martin was doing a lot of the voices too, and those always had to be added in post, where, like, I would basically leave space for them to be said, and then they'd be recorded and inserted later. Had a couple guest voice actors in there. It was a fun time. Like, anytime I get to do shitty voice acting is fun, basically. Now we have Beanie Baby videos, so basically, anything where I'm either ranting about a shitty top 10 list that I found online, or Dr. Lori's amazing levels of incompetence, looking over an old magazine or just kind of talking about my collection or something. These are usually pretty fun to put together, and more often than not turn into me just kind of rambling for hours on end about a subject that I am weirdly passionate about. And it's like out of character for me. Like, most people would not expect me to be into collecting stuffed animals, but I am. And I have way too much specific knowledge about them, and so I feel the need to share that knowledge because there's not very many good resources out there, and the ones that do exist are buried under all the garbage. So I enjoy making those, and most people, from what I can tell, seem to like watching them, at least as background noise. Even if they don't care about the subject, they, like to hear me get riled up over it, at least. So yeah, those are fun. I am actually, partway through recording more of them. But I will upload that when I'm able. Next one's kind of cheating, honestly. This one is a generic randomizers option. It's, any randomized game I've played through, which is pretty much going to always be Zelda or Metroid, in a few cases Pokemon. I don't know if I've ever actually finished a randomizer for Pokemon on screen. There was also the one time I did Mario 64 rando. But, yeah, it's like, if I had to separate all of these, we would be adding another 20 things to this list, because I've streamed Metroid Prime randomized, just, that one on its own, I've probably done, 10 runs of. I've done Zero Mission rando, Super Mission Super Metroid rando, probably, 5 times each. I've done Ocarina of Time a bunch of times, Link to the Past a couple times. Even Zelda 1, Metroid 1, there's a ton of them. And all I can say is just, on average, I like how they come out. They're pretty good. They're not my best ever content usually, but I have fun making them, and I think most of the time, because it's a game that I'm generally really experienced with, it's usually just going to be a fun experience. I like doing them a lot. Next one's kind of a shock to me, honestly. I was surprised that I even put it up this high, but I still stand by it. I want to say before I reveal it here that I have felt like I've basically been past my prime for the past 12 years. I feel like, my LP is kind of peaked around Mario Sunshine, honestly. I said earlier that, it's not my favorite or whatever, but that seems to be kind of my high point, according to a lot of people. It was at least when I kind of got the most views. And so I'm surprised that the top of my list isn't all just really old stuff. Because it's not. It's kind of a mix. There is old stuff up here, but it's a mix of a few different eras, I guess we would say. And that is showcased well with this one, which I have not finished fully making public yet, B3313. Weird-ass Mario 64 ROM hack where nothing makes sense. I kind of had a blast playing through that. It was, this is going to be a weird one because, like I said, it's not fully public yet, so not everybody's seen the whole thing, but there is a very, how do I even explain this? As I progressed through that game, the first 5 or 6 videos, I more or less had no idea what I was doing, and I was just kind of playing it by ear and, slowly learning how some stuff connected. And then eventually I had a notepad document that I put together trying to track how everything connects and, see what things I've fully explored and what I still need to check stuff out in. And around the halfway point of that series, which I think at this point has still not actually been made public yet, I went through the effort to make a spreadsheet of everything instead of just having it in Notepad, so it would be a little bit more easier organized, easy to see what I'm looking at. And that spreadsheet is pretty much the reason that I have this so high, because you have no idea the amount of time I put into this thing. Like, there were nights, like, and these were nights, like, before a day where I had to go to work. Like, there were actually days where I came into work on, like, 4 hours of sleep because of me working on this thing. Like, I would start this spreadsheet at 11 p.m., and I wouldn't go to sleep until, like, 6 a.m. Like, just solid nothing but playing the game, trying to document how everything connects, and, like, you know, losing myself in this endless maze. And it was honestly kind of a blast. And it's like, it's a shame that so much of that is not recorded, because it was me working on the spreadsheet off screen. But I mean, any of the parts that weren't recorded would have just been me playing it in silence, so, like, you're not missing much from that, really. But and I did make it a point to generally stick to stuff that I had at least sort of explored. Like, I didn't want to go to anything brand new off screen. But I did end up kind of, like, you know, peeking at the wiki here and there just to verify some stuff. So I don't know. It was really fun to go through. There's going to be a new version of that game released eventually, and when it does, I kind of want to stream it and, you know, just go through it blind and kind of rediscover how everything works, what all the new stuff is. I know some people didn't like that series, and I can understand why, because eventually it basically just turned into me kind of, like, going through uninteresting levels and getting stars that weren't that exciting. Because at that point we'd already kind of seen, like, you know, everything the game was going to throw at us, but just kind of discovering all of its secrets, figuring out how it all worked. I really had fun with it. And next up, we have Kaizo Mario 64. Remember when I said that the shittier and Mario 64 hack is, the higher on the list it's going to be? Well, here we are. This is the king of them all. This game was a colossal piece of shit, and it was really fun because of it. So, like, with this one, I had, unless I'm forgetting something, I'm pretty sure I played through the entirety of it, screen sharing on Skype with Martin before we lived together. And, you know, we just kind of had fun making fun of how ridiculous this thing was, because the whole thing was like, you know, just throw fire everywhere, like, put chain chomps everywhere. How do we make this part difficult? Oh, you know, just put the star 5 million feet up in the sky with an awkward, like, series of crumbling bridges leading up to it. And then every once in a while it would just get batshit insane and turn into something that you would never figure out. Like, it just, like, there's the one where the wet dry world secrets are completely unindicated, and they're in terrible places that you would never check. Like, the red coins inside the lamps in Hazy Maze Cave, where you'll never see them. Just stuff like that. It was a fun game, because I feel like I also got to kind of put my pretty decent Mario 64 skills to the test in this one, because, like, it was, like, it's definitely not the hardest SM64 hack that exists. And obviously I'm playing the thing with heavy save state abuse, but like, there were parts of that were legitimately hard, and I feel like I did a good job doing them without, you know, having to retry it 5 million times. So I think that one definitely earns this spot. Next up, we have Voyager of Time. And this one is more the creation of the game and not the LP. So that's a little unfair, but the LP is mostly just talking about the creation of the game. So yeah, this one was the Ocarina of Time ROM hack that Martin made that I assisted with. And, you know, most of this was just kind of us recounting our stories with making certain areas and like figuring out how the programs worked and just all the weird, stupid shit that's in the programming of the base game. Because like this ROM hack was not very technically impressive. For the time, there weren't very many ones out there. And like even compared to the ones that there were, this one wasn't as ambitious because it was mostly just kind of moving stuff around. But you know, we put a good amount of effort into this. I'd say, like, you know, we did our best. Had to shoehorn a new story into pre-existing cutscenes and events, which was not easy, and had to kind of structure new puzzles and stuff around, like, moving the items into different places. So it was kind of just Master Quest, but a little jankier. So yeah, it was generally a fun experience. Can we move the Hadoop? Here we go. So yeah, now we have Bikdip's Adventure 2. What more to say about this one? It's just like Voyager and my other two Zelda Classic quests. It's me recounting stories about a game that I made. Except in this case, it's not utter crap. I've gotten harsher about BA2 recently. I used to think it was quite solid, and Autumn disagrees with me on this one because she thinks that it is really good, and I'm like, it's whatever. I feel like, you know, it has good parts, and it has some parts that are kind of bad, but I'm still, you know, relatively proud of it. I think a lot of people do like the quest. It's at least, you know, pretty well rated on PeersAC. There's a lot of people who say it's, like, at least for 192, it did a lot of stuff pretty well. And hopefully, you know, one day when I'm 70 years old, Bikdip's Adventure 3 will be released, and it will, you know, blow this one out of the water. I wish I could show more of BA3, but that would require making more of it, and that is hard. But we're trying. But that's a different story. So yeah, BA2 LP, it was fun. There's very little else to say about it. It was a fun time. So, coming up on, these next four, I think, are the heavy hitters. We have Undertale. This was not an LP, it was a stream, but it might as well count anyway, as far as I'm concerned. Undertale was an experience. We'll just put it at that. You know, I didn't play it blind, so... Or, I didn't stream it blind, so I was like, we're not getting my first experience with this or anything, but, you know, I really loved that game. Going through it the first time, everything with it just really clicked with me, and I'm like, you know, I feel like I probably want to stream this at some point, and there were people who said that I shouldn't because issues with the fan base or whatever, but I did it anyway, and I'm really glad I did, because just like Thousand Year Door, it was a excuse for me to do a bunch of really shitty voice acting and just have fun with it. And if I said before that my ending for Fire Red Omega was the most impressive thing I've ever made, that is in very stiff competition with the Flowey takeover in the Undertale stream. That thing was like a technical marvel. Like, okay, I'm kind of talking it up a bit because you know, it was whatever, but I wanted to do something big for it because the ending of the neutral route in Undertale is one of my favorite parts of any video game I've ever played, and I'm like, you know, I have the opportunity to do something really cool and memorable with this, and I'm gonna take it, and I'm really glad I did because I think it came out great. If you haven't watched it, you definitely need to. It was, you know, there's a couple parts of it that are pretty cheesy. Some of the dialogue is, yeah, but it was a cool idea, and I feel like I pulled it off quite well. So into the final three. I don't know why I'm saying that. I said into the final four before, but yeah, it's like, here we go. Number 3 is Majora's Mask. This was, you know, if we're not counting Peasant's Quest, this was the first LP I did with Martin, and it was very important. We'll leave it at that, basically. We went into it with the idea of doing shitty voice acting, and I think we kind of dropped off on that as it went. I don't remember, actually. Like, I think we kind of did it for, like, some of the more important cutscenes, but either way, it was, you know, we basically met over this game, and it was more or less just a normal 100% playthrough of it with the voice acting, and this was, like, the first co-commentary LP that I did, I think, other than Pikmin 2, I guess. So, I don't know, it was just, you know, most of it was just kind of, I guess, whatever, other than, you know, just good memories with it. And then, of course, there was the ending, which basically revealed that, you know, Martin had moved in with me, and that all kind of happened, like, to coincide with the Anju Cafe quest, which worked out really well. And there was the musical Moontage song that we did, which, much like some of the other songs, you know, is a little hard to listen to now. At least for me, I'm a little embarrassed by it. But we put a lot of heart into it, and I feel like, you know, the song was pretty good. Maybe not necessarily the performance, but like I said, it had a heart. We tried. Alright, number 2, Metroid Prime 23%. This was my very first capture card LP, and my god, does the quality show it. It is, like, visually, it's basically unwatchable. It's a series of colors, but, you know, mostly brown and gray. But I had to put it up here because I think in terms of, like, actual, like, gaming prowess, this is probably the best thing I've ever made. You could maybe make some cases for some other stuff, but much like with the Mario 64 CCC run, this was basically me just showing off a game that I really liked and liked to break open. And I've not kept up with the tricks in this game. Even at the time that I made the video, it was probably pretty out of date, and there had been some better tech discovered. But basically my history with Metroid Prime was, like, you know, I played through it normally a few times, and I really enjoyed it. And when I eventually found speedruns of it, through, like, Speed Demos Archive, I learned, you know, there's all these crazy stuff you can do, and I'm like, I want to try to learn that stuff. And so it was, like, really one of the first games, along with SM64, that I just went out of my way to learn all these tricks to do weird, stupid shit in the game. And, you know, early on I did a 23% run where you skip a lot of the major items, and I had a lot of fun doing it, and I did a couple more of those. And finally, once I got the ability to record console, I'm like, I gotta do this. This is gonna be real fun, and I get to show everything off, and I did, and I think it came out really good. I wish it was... I wish the visuals weren't god-awful, but what are you gonna do? Do I have anything else to say about that? I feel like I have more to say here, but probably not really. I think that kind of sums it up. And so that leaves us with the last thing, and do you remember what is missing? Because when I put this in the number 1 spot, I was kind of surprised by it, honestly. I thought that, like, either Prime or, like, Bikdip's Adventure or something was going to be my number 1, but nope. It is Super Smash Bros. Melee. That was a real fun one. It was... I think everything came together in this one better than any other LP I've done. And that is almost entirely because of Joel's editing on it. You know, playing the game itself was a fun time. I liked the idea of doing a 100% Smash Bros. Game because nobody ever really does that. You know, people play the game for the versus aspect of it. And, you know, nobody really cares about completion. But playing that game, you know, as however old I was when it came out, teenager, I had, like, you know, some much younger brothers that I could kind of play around with, but they were not good at the game. So I mostly, you know, just had the single player content, and that was enough for me. I had a lot of fun getting all the trophies and doing all the challenges and stuff. And so I did that a few times, and I feel like that game kind of had, like, the perfect amount of content. I will still always, you know, I stand by that each Smash game is better than the previous. Like, you know, you can make your argument for Brawl kind of really destroying the physics and making the game slower and, like, less fun at its core. But, you know, it added so much to the roster. Like, you know, it added, like, all these new game modes and stuff. Like, I kind of just have to see that as being the better game overall. And so on with Smash 4 and then Ultimate. But Melee will always still hold a special spot in my heart for being the first, you know, Smash Bros. Game with content, because the N64 game kind of didn't really have any. And just, it was very, it's approachable. It doesn't have, you know, 700 trophies. It had a little under 300. It doesn't have, you know, almost 40 characters you have to run through all these modes. It had 25. It's a little bit more reasonable. The event matches are fun. You know, trying to figure out how to do all the stupid bonuses to get the Discoon trophy is fun. All that kind of stuff. And so I just kind of had fun doing all that. And then it was tied together with me passing off all the footage to Joel, and he would edit in a lot of, like, weird, like, in jokes and just crazy edits and stuff, and that was really funny. And then eventually, you know, he got too busy to do that, and I had to come back to it myself doing some editing, and I think mine was not, you know, as good, but I tried to add in some stuff where I could, and it just all around came out to a fun experience. And I don't know how to cap this off. That's, I have talked way too long about all these, and it was kind of, you know, fun revisiting them. I'm sorry that so many of them were just, I don't remember this. But, that recaps, you know, how long have I been doing this? My channel's been around since 2006, I think. My first LP was in 2008. So, yeah, we're looking at almost 15 years of this crap. And it's had its highs and lows, but, yeah. How do I end this? I guess just by doing this. Okay, we're ending. Bye.